For most of us, those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern parts of England too. A bit of a northeasterly breeze here through the day, but the clouds should lift and break. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, but we could see some clouds bubbling up into the afternoon. The risk of some showers across parts of Wales, the West Midlands in particular. In the southwest, we'll see temperatures reaching the low 30s, but much cooler towards the north and east, around 14 to 15 Celsius along some eastern coast, so chillier compared to recent days. Into this evening time, the risk of further showers, but if we zoom into Scotland, a fine end to the day here. Plenty of sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens. Still rather cloudy though across towards Edinburgh, down towards the borders, but there'll be some glimmers of sunshine. Similar across Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine to end the day. And the risk of showers across Wales into the Midlands. Some of these are thundery at times, but lots of places dry and still very warm in that evening sunshine, with temperatures in the mid to high 20s in places. Showers will feed north and eastwards as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight across England and Wales. Some heavy downpours developing, the odd rumble of thunder possible. Elsewhere, generally dry, particularly across parts of Scotland, and temperatures here in the countryside will dip into single figures. But for most, another warm night, not quite as warm as recent nights, but staying in double figures. Thursday is a bit more of a mixed day. Some low cloud across parts of Wales and southwest England around the coast. Showers pushing northwards, but plenty of sunshine in between. The sunshine quite abundant across parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland for a time before some cloud moves in here. Later on in the day, some high cloud across England and Wales later. The risk of a few showers. Temperatures once again high 20s to low 30s towards the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 27th of May. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. Households, yes, will be hit by a £221 increase in their household energy bills. That's as the government blames the war in Iran for driving up energy costs. The Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
You can't nationalise whilst you're shutting down the North Sea. You can't have AI whilst Ed Miliband's making your electricity more and more expensive.
Yes, this hike in the price cap, the first biggest one since 2023, will put more pressure on Keir Starmer's government to help out working families. Will Rachel Reeves buckle? Find out more with me very soon.
Keir Starmer has shown strength, determination and intelligence in setting Labour back on a winning path.
Well, that was Sir Tony Blair speaking 4 years ago. But now the former Prime Minister says it's not just Starmer's personality that's the issue, it's the total lack of any coherent plan for the country, as he warns against a lurch to the left.
That's right, no coherent plan, says the most successful Labour politician in history. How does Sir Keir Starmer react to this when his leadership is under threat from left and right?
And two big hitters in the Reform Party are in a row over deportation policy. Yes, there's a war of words that's erupted as Zia Youssef takes aim at Robert Jenrick's stance on deportations. We'll have the details.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
That's not the Middle East, that's Birmingham, where new Reform councillors have sparked anger by calling for an English-only rule at Birmingham City Council after an Islamic prayer was recited during the annual mayor-making ceremony. So, should British councils only speak English? We'll have that debate.
And it's time to end the de facto ban on air conditioning. Yes, that's the message from the Conservatives today as they pledge to make Britain cool again.
Elsewhere, the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, has praised the 4,000, although that number is disputed, free water refill points across London during this heatwave. But is the plastic design really the best Britain's got? These water fountains, do you know how much each one of them costs?
I'm going to say £1,500.
It's more.
2,000?
More.
5,000?
It's more than that.
10,000?
It's more than that.
£15,000?
It's more than
£20,000?
It's more than £20,000.
£30,000?
It is £25,000. For that.
That's
insane.
Now, this is an astonishing amount of money. It's not actually 4,000 as well. So the 4,000 number that... this is a lovely picture of some old Victorian fountain, which I bet cost less than £25,000 to install. It is remarkable how much money has been spent on this. So it's actually only 100 of these strange plastic shiny and sort of off-putting water fountains. The rest of the 4,000 figure is made up of fountains that already exist and also restaurants that signed up to the mayor's scheme. So it's only 100 of these things and they cost £25,000 each.
I mean, you can see some sort of, I don't know, is that Georgian architecture behind?
Yeah.
Actually, maybe it's a modern monstrosity behind, actually. I'm just trying to look a little closer.
It's a little blurry.
Anyway,
I think it's nice.
It doesn't quite fit with our beautiful Edwardian, Victorian architecture that surrounds London, the centre of London, does it?
It looks like something that could be anywhere. And it doesn't look
like... An airport.
Like
it looks like what you find in an airport.
It looks like, an indoor airport installation. Not the sort of... Could you imagine that on any of our sort of great cities' high streets?
Now, some people might say, why on earth do you care? It's just a tool to get you water. Because we have standards in this country that we're trying to uphold here at GB News, and this falls below them.
It's for £25,000 as well. I mean, it looks like it. It looks like it.
I can't actually believe it costs that much. I'm glad I hadn't looked it up because that did genuinely take me by surprise. So anyway, get your thoughts in, gbnews.com/your say. Also, do you think that we need more net zero to combat these rising energy bills? That's what Ed Miliband thinks. Get in touch. But should we get the headlines with Tatiana?
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories: household energy prices will be rising by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hits bills. Ofgem saying a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity will pay over £220 more a year. The jump will equate to a rise of £18 a month for the average household. The energy cap covers 33 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister has urged the government says it needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. He criticised the government for decisions on welfare, stopping the US from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran, and urged Labour to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats. However, Sir Tony warned Labour against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
The thing that I would agree with Tony on is if you don't have a proper diagnosis of what's going wrong with the country, then you will fail. You saw that with previous Conservative governments. You've seen that with the Labour government. You're seeing that with reform at the local level. If you don't get a grip on the legal things that are holding us back, like net zero legislation, the regulators, the regulation, the taxes, all of those things, if you don't rewire the system, then governments will keep failing the British public. And, you know, we just can't go on like this. We have to understand what we need to do for the country. And one of the most important things is to bring back growth.
A woman has admitted being in charge of a dangerously out-of-control XL bully dog when it killed a teenager. The dog, named Prince, fatally injured 19-year-old Morgan Dorset, pictured here inside a flat in Bristol in February last year. 24-year-old Kelsey Reid pleaded guilty today to being in charge of a dog dangerously out of control, causing injury resulting in death. Miss Dorset from Shrewsbury in Shropshire suffered fatal bites to her neck during the attack. The dog was later put down. Breaking news, a body has been found by rescuers searching for a teenager who went missing while swimming in open water in Cheshire. Specialist divers and helicopter crews were looking for the 17-year-old boy who was last seen in the water at Pickmere Lake in Northwich. Meanwhile, police believe a body found in the search for a 12-year-old boy who went missing while swimming in a river in Lancashire is that of the child. He was with his friends when he got into difficulty in the River Ribble in Lancashire yesterday afternoon. In all, 6 people have died in water-related incidents during the heatwave in England. That says the UK record for the hottest May Day has been broken for a second day running as parts of London surpassed 35 degrees. Kew Gardens in southwest London recorded a provisional temperature of 35.1 degrees, beating Monday's 34.8 degrees record high in the same place. Temperatures are expected to cool slightly in parts of the UK. The soaring temperatures led to travel disruption as well as a series of open water fatalities. Firefighters have been tackling a blaze at a commercial property in Golders Green in North London. The London Fire Brigade received 56 reports of a fire on Golders Green Road just before 7 o'clock this morning, which appears to have started behind a kosher supermarket. The cause of the fire is unknown at this time. A Met Police spokesman said that officers have been at the scene helping with road closures and evacuations. And the Prince of Wales believes England is closing in on its bid for World Cup glory this summer as he met backroom staff supporting the men's team. Prince William, patron of the Football Association, made a private visit earlier this month to St George's Park in Staffordshire. Whilst he was there, he spoke to staff working behind the scenes alongside manager Thomas Tuchel, and he praised them for being unsung heroes. Those are the latest headlines for now. Here's the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.35 and €1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,340 and the FTSE 100 is at 10,494 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 9 minutes past midday. And Ed Miliband is pressing ahead with his net zero drive, insisting higher bills show Britain must move faster towards clean, homegrown power, despite households now being hammered with a £221 annual energy bill increase.
Yes, millions of households are set to suffer following Ofgem's decision to raise the price cap from July.
Well, this is the latest blow for working Britons under the Labour Party, which sparks a key question. How much further could household bills rise from here? And is more net zero really the answer?
Well, joining us now in the studio is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Now, I understand that the price cap has gone up 5 times since Labour came into power. It's also gone down 3 times at different points. So where do we stand?
Well, this is a huge lift in the price cap, and we shouldn't underestimate it. Basically, every 3 months, Ofgem decides where the price cap should sit, and this is the first time it's taken into account the war in Iran, which obviously broke out not that long ago. This is a price cap 35% higher than the last one in February. And the very bad news from Ofgem is that that's not the worst of it. July to October, not the time when people use the most gas. These are the warmer months. But we are expecting the price cap to go up again in October. And that is going to be really possibly catastrophic for some of those older people in colder homes. Now, Rachel Reeves has been weighing up for a long time whether to give some sort of energy support to families suffering with the cost of living crisis. She wanted to avoid doing a kind of general gift of energy help for the whole of the country, like Liz Truss did when the war in Ukraine broke out, because obviously there were huge economic impacts from that. She's resisted so far. It now looks as though she might introduce some sort of warm home help for the poorest families if that price cap does go up in October. Obviously, we are seeing energy prices going up across the whole of the world because of the war in Iran. But interestingly and worryingly, both for all of us, all of our viewers, and for the Labour government, the UK actually has some of the most expensive energy costs in the whole of the developed world, far more expensive than Finland, the US, Switzerland, etc., and on a par with some of the highest energy providers in the whole of Europe. Why is that? Well, some people would argue that part of it is because of this very fast drive to net zero being pushed by Ed Miliband. What's happening is the government is pumping money into subsidies for wind farms, etc., and solar panels as well. And in some cases, that simply isn't paying off. We know that the UK has a very, very weather-reliant energy plan. When we have lots of wind, then we see lots of wind power. But when we don't have much wind, we are still very reliant on gas. That's because the grid just can't take as much wind power as we're getting. And there are also concerns that in the summer, if we get as much sun as we're expecting, the grid will become overwhelmed with solar energy. So the infrastructure just isn't really there for the push to net zero, which Ed Miliband is attempting. Let's see how Labour reacts to this. I cannot see Ed Miliband backing down on net zero. That has become the Energy Secretary sort of raison d'etre. Of course, we know that Keir Starmer, I think, was rather interested in getting rid of Ed Miliband altogether and pursuing a bit of a softer net zero strategy in the last reshuffle. He wasn't able to do that because he didn't have enough power. He has even less power now.
And how are the opposition reacting to all this? Because, let's be honest, they put into law net zero, did they not?
Well, exactly. I think this is one area where the Conservatives seem pretty willing to put their hands up and say, we got this wrong. Claire Cortino, the Shadow Energy Secretary, has been talking about the perils of net zero today. She's been talking about the de facto ban on air conditioning, a result of Ed Miliband's net zero push. And she's saying that all of that needs to be reversed. Reform, too, is saying that we are still a nation that is heavily reliant on oil and gas, despite what we would like to see. Essentially, we need to be living in the world that we are living in rather than the world that we would like to be living in. So there is a lot of pressure now coming on all sides. And I think that pressure is only going to increase as we get out of the summer and go into those winter months where, of course, the burden on families will be much, much bigger. A £221 pound a year average rise in energy bills for working families, already struggling with so many different cost of living pressures. I think this is really, really bad news for the Labour government and, of course, for all of us.
I mean, are there any bills that have gone down?
Are there any bills that have gone... I mean, no?
I don't think so. I mean, everything from your mobile phone to your council tax to your car insurance, I think everything.
I think what Rachel Reeves might say is that the rate of inflation has come down over the last 12 months. Of course, it went up when Labour got into office. It's now 2.8%, I think I'm right in saying. But the problem about the rate of inflation coming down is that that's just the rate of increase of prices. It doesn't mean prices have come down. Prices are still going up, just by less than they were before.
They are, indeed. Well, should we speak to Temi Laleya, who is GB News' personal finance correspondent, to try and help us, Temi, how can we get around this?
So...
If we can.
Yeah, if we can. I would say a lot of people might be thinking now, should I fix? So there's about 22 million people who are already on the standard, who are already on a fix, so they actually won't see an increase straight away. Okay. So it's for the people who aren't on a fix. So I would say the first thing for anyone to do is, first of all, check what does my energy provider give me? Is there a way I can save money? Because a lot of people, they don't even know what rate they're on. So it's important to first check your rate, then check the way you do pay. So you can actually save £143 if you're paying direct debit instead of standard credit. So a lot of people might not know that. Those are ways you can make savings. Next, I would say, use a comparison site. See if you can find cheaper elsewhere. Especially before July, there are a lot of energy providers who are offering fixes cheaper, at a cheaper rate, so you will be able to make savings. However, I will say with fixes, it is important to note that, let's say the price cap did go down, you'd be paying the higher rate. But, so it just depends.
You have to keep checking.
Yeah, it's definitely
keep checking. See if there's anything better out there. I mean, are we expecting bills to continue to rise? Are we expecting that price cap to keep, considering everything that's going on in the world?
Yeah, I would say, predictions are saying, like from Cornwall Insights are saying that in October, it is likely that prices will continue to rise. So it's important to check now for the fix, especially before July. I would also say people should take meter readings, those with smart meters and those without. Check a meter reading to make sure that the rates that you're charged now are at least at the cheaper rates before the July before the price cap does increase in July. There are also so many reward schemes that your energy provider does put out, such as British Gas. They do peak save schemes, so people can sort of use their energy in a specific time, and they can save money that way. I know Octopus and EDF do, so it's important that customers are checking what does my energy provider actually offer me that can help me cut bills, because there are rewards going around, like reward schemes that people can sign up to. So it's just making sure you're aware of that. There's also just ways you use your energy that you can cut bills. So if you have a combi boiler, checking what flow temperature you're at, because usually they come around 80 degrees. So if you turn it down to about 60, which won't disrupt like the heat in your home, the heating will still feel similar, but you can save money that way. You can also just maybe use an air fryer instead of using your oven, or using money at off-peak times, just as a way to cut costs that way. They seem little, but they do add up over time.
I think people are going to have to do that, aren't they, really?
Yeah, I think every little does help,
Squeeze
to coin
every
a phrase
little
from
bit.
Other supermarkets.
I had a gas man and a water man turn up at my door a couple of weeks ago.
Say what?
To check my measurements.
Gosh.
Not my measurements. Not my measurements. I don't know, however much gas, whatever the number was on the meter.
Oh,
You've got to be like, who exactly are you? Can I see your badge, please?
Yeah.
Temi, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Absolutely.
And for giving us some tips.
And if you at home have any questions about how to save money in your life, in your energy bills, do send them in. gbnews.com/yoursay. We'll get Temi to pore over those and get you some answers.
We absolutely will. Get ready for those. Anyway, earlier today, the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband said this: the rise in the price cap because of a war we did not choose is deeply unwelcome news for households across the country. We know people were under pressure before the crisis, and that's why easing that burden is our #1 priority. We've got a poll today.
We do have a poll, and friends of GB News, you can become a GB News friend just by going to gbnews.com. Well, today we're asking, are you worried about rising energy bills? And it's a shocker, this one. I, for one, thought it would be 50-50. No, I didn't. Goodness me. It's 98% of you say, yes, you're worried. Only 2% of you say, no, you're not worried. And the 2% who say you're not worried, sorry, why?
They just got a lot of money lying around.
Goodness.
Or maybe they've got their own solar panels.
Oh, maybe they sell their energy back to the grid?
Yeah, maybe.
Especially
Let us know
with the sun like it is.
You're on
this
that 2%. Well, tell me, we're going to need some more tips. With this, 98% are worried. That is pretty shocking, isn't it? Do you think Ed Miliband has the answers? More net zero, more green homegrown power? Is that the answer?
Well, of course, if you want to vote, it's gbnews.com/you decide.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, it is time for the Great British Giveaway. There is still £76,543.21 to win, up for grabs and tax-free cash. Here's the details.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543.21 in cash to spend however you like. That is extra cash that you could use to buy those treats you've always wanted, put a new car on the drive, or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. £76,543.21 is an incredible amount of money, and it could be all yours. For a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck indeed. And if you want to pay for, I don't know, what, a week's energy, then that 76 grand should do you, should get you some of the way there. Now, in other news, Sir Tony Blair has warned Labour against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him, as he launches a stinging criticism of the government's time in office.
Yes, in an almost 6,000-word essay, Sir Tony said Labour was lacking a project and was playing with the future of the country. This sounds like Tony Blair is being very positive about Keir Starmer. He absolutely is not, is he? Let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope, on that. He's saying it's not just Keir Starmer's personality and communication problems that are the issue, it's the entire Labour project.
Yes, he's changed his tune, as you were showing at the start of the hour, since Keir Starmer came in and was endorsed by Tony Blair. Tony Blair, the most important Labour figure in British politics, a triple election winner, the last living Labour Prime Minister before Keir Starmer. What he says matters, and he is not held back. He says we don't have a worked-out, coherent plan for the country in a fast-changing world. We, the Labour government, is in the wrong political position from where we can devise one and win a second term, i.e. new leader. No, not new leader. How will that help, he's saying? How will Wes Streeting or Andy Burnham help when we don't know what we're doing, which is exactly, I think, what we've been saying for quite a while on GB News. Leadership, he's not sure whether that's relevant. It must start a policy debate, but if it starts a policy debate and you're Andy Burnham, you go outside the manifesto, pressure for an election next May. And are they in any election position at all? No, they're not. And look at the detail. No reform of benefits. Why are we drilling in the North Sea? Damaging business, confident economy. I mean, this is... The Tories would agree with this.
He's slating them.
Every single line.
And he said it's dangerous for the party to lurch to the left. Is that a bit of a side eye to Andy Burnham and potentially Ed Miliband as well?
He called that a comfort zone, and he's right, because what Labour did back in the 90s was just move away with Peter Mandelson and Gordon Brown into the centre ground and just sat there, didn't they? And then, of course, under Gordon Brown in 2008, 9 and 10, they went further to the left and then lost the votes.
It's fair to say that that Keir Starmer, when he was standing for election, was using the Blair playbook in many ways. He promised to not raise taxes. He did that sort of triple lock on exactly in the same way that Blair did in '97 on income tax, national insurance, and
VAT.
Was it called VAT? it just seemed very, very different as soon as they got into office. Blair, for his first term, stuck by Tory spending limits. As soon as Rachel Reeves got her first budget, she increased borrowing by £60 billion, taxes by £40 billion. I mean, they have been acting like a 1970s Labour government, but campaigned to be elected like a 1997 Tony Blair. There's just this enormous cognitive dissonance.
I mean, defenders of the government would say, well, Blair is saying you should break your word as soon as you got in, and we borrowed £500 billion in 3 years on the COVID pandemic and dealing with the energy shock, and all that went on the government's overdrive.
But I think that that's wrong. So, for example, when the government was fighting the election campaign, they promised very Labour. They promised very, very modest increases to the NHS budget, for instance. It was something that was criticised during the election campaign, saying, how can you possibly run the health service when you're not going to put any more money into it, or just very sort of 2% increases, something like that. And then they get in, and they put in £20 billion, way more than they promised. And by the way, they raised national insurance by £20 billion. I mean, they could have stuck by their promises on spending and then not taxed so highly.
But instead they went, yes, they did both. Well, let's listen to what Dan Tomlinson says. He's the Treasury Minister.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning, woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
Dan Thompson defending the Angela Rayner reforms on working life. Of course, some would say that actually zero-hours contracts do suit some people, maybe mums at home who want to completely flex their hours, but that's not what Dan Thompson thinks.
Yeah, and students as well. We were just saying how young some of our ministers look these days. Perhaps we're getting old. As we're getting old, you see that with teachers and police officers. And
at least Dan Tomlinson is an economist by training.
Well, that's good.
I think he's one of the smarter ones in the Treasury.
We need some more who've run a business, though, don't we?
That's true.
Who've employed people and taken some risk in that respect. So, just one question, Christopher. How much are people listening to Tony Blair? Yes, this has made headlines because usually whatever he says does, and perhaps, you know, it being half-term and everything, there's not as much political news. How will, you know, the average backbench Labour MP respond to this? Is there anything they don't know?
Well, if they're in their comfort zone, and it seems that a lot of the new elected MPs back in 2024 have broadly come from that kind of space of NGOs or special advisors or PR, they will not want to listen to what's being said here. Angela Rayner certainly won't. They think that, you know, there is no magic money tree, of course, but they think there's no cost to what they're doing here. But the ever-increasing benefits bill, whether from pensions or working benefits, that's got to be curbed by the next election. Or it's
awful headline
over
today. 125,000 young people have been on universal credit for their entire lives.
Yeah, shocking.
It is shocking. It's not great, is it?
But I wonder, I mean, Tony Blair seems to be sort of saying that all of these tough decisions need to be made. I mean, he also spoke about, for example, the triple lock, saying that that's unsustainable in the long run. I mean, it seems quite easy for Prime Ministers after they've left office to say, oh, we should do all these difficult things. Rishi Sunak says the same thing very often in his Times column. But for those that are currently in power, when they have tried to make difficult decisions, they find that actually sometimes it's not necessarily that the government isn't thinking it needs to do this stuff. It's that the electorate won't let them.
Yes, it's hard. And he was saying the point about governing and being in power is it's really hard. You've got to make the argument, even if it means breaking promises made in a manifesto.
Well, Christopher, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to you again shortly, I hope. Yes?
Yep, definitely.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. And lots of you getting in touch about energy. Rob says the 2% who aren't bothered are probably living in Spain. Yes, our expat community over in the Costa del Sol, perhaps.
Although it has felt a bit like the Costa del Thames at the moment, honestly. In this, well, I'm looking forward to the thunderstorms at least. In other news, Reform UK is facing internal divisions over its deportation policy. This after Zia Youssef publicly contradicted his colleague Robert Jenrick.
Yes, that seems to happen quite a lot. The Treasury spokesman suggested foreign nationals in council housing would not automatically face deportation. But Mr Youssef, the Home Affairs spokesman, insisted anyone in taxpayer-funded social housing would fail Reform's economic test and be removed. That's foreign nationals in social housing.
Well, let's speak to the chief political correspondent for The Times, Aubrey Allegretti. Aubrey, there does seem to be perhaps some bad blood within Reform's quote-unquote shadow cabinet.
That's putting it mildly, I think. There have obviously been long-running tensions between Robert Jenrick and Zia Youssef, stretching back, of course, to the former's time on the Conservative front bench. I think in the past, Zia Youssef has called Robert Jenrick a 2p Nigel Farage impersonator and personally blamed Robert Jenrick, who was, of course, Immigration Minister several years ago, for the Afghan data leak scandal. I think Reform insiders aren't terribly pleased to see some of these arguments being made publicly on X, and they're sort of questioning whether or not this is really the right forum to do this. But of course, Zia Youssef, as the party's Home Affairs spokesperson, feels very strongly about the policy that he helped devise and wants to make sure that it's not being misinterpreted, because there is that concern that Restore Britain is potentially going to be seen to sort of outflank Reform on the right of the party and lose voters to it.
Which is deeply ironic, of course, because that's exactly what the Reform Party did to the Conservative Party. I mean, it does seem like the right of politics is descending into the same sort of purity test politics that the left has experienced for the last 50-plus years. I mean, I wouldn't be half surprised if Restore, after a little while of rising in the polls, faces yet another party to its right that then starts saying that you're not hardcore enough. I think there are plenty of them, although I do think, and I have seen a number of reports, actually, a lot of people who have come from even further right parties have now been joining Restore and a sort of part of that.
Yes,
that
I mean, it is perhaps it's a fabric, a messy fabric of parties. Aubrey, just on the particulars here. So Zia Youssef, so Robert Jenrick went on Sky News with Trevor Phillips, didn't he? And he said Reform UK will not deport foreign nationals living in social housing as a sort of de facto policy. Zia Youssef says no. As the person responsible for our deportation plan, I want to ensure people know where we stand. If a foreign national lives in social housing at taxpayer expense, they automatically fail our economic test and will be deported. So Zia is the tough one in this.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, Robert Jenrick was asked quite a straight question, which was, if you live in social housing, will that, and you are a sort of foreign national living in the UK, but perfectly legally, will that on its own automatically qualify you for deportation under Reform's plans to, I think, remove about 500,000 people over the course of the next parliament, 100,000 people per year? And Robert Jenrick's answer was, well, not exclusively. And Zia Youssef is coming out to try and clear up confusion here and saying, yes, absolutely, it means that you sort of automatically will fail our economic test because the status independent leave to remain will be abolished. That means that people won't be able to qualify for having benefits, including social housing. So, yeah, I think there are some tensions under the surface here that we are being exposed in quite a frustratingly public way for some Reform
There would be
figures.
a lot of people deported from Westminster.
Although, of course, I mean, we are now litigating this. I mean, for example, if someone decided to, because some of these people living in social housing have big savings, for instance, and they could then move into the private rented market, would that be an option, or would they be automatically deported? I think there's a lot that we don't know about Reform's policy, actually. But Aubrey Allegretti, thanks indeed for joining us and talking through this curious spat in the highest polling party at the moment.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, Tom?
Yes, about 90 drones plummeted from the sky above Sydney's Darling Harbour during an aerial drone show, prompting a second display to be cancelled. Well, stay tuned to see the rest of this dramatic footage. But after the break...
It's time to end the de facto ban on air conditioning.
Yeah.
That's the message from the Conservatives today, as they pledge to make Britain cool again. I guess it's catchy.
Well, all of that and much more after your latest headlines.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories: household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hit bills. The regulator Ofgem says the household using a typical amount of gas and electricity will pay £221 more a year. In other news today, Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. And the UK record for the hottest May Day has been broken for a second day running as parts of London surpassed 35 degrees. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
A big welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. It is now 12:35. Is that the remnants of a Jaffa cake in your mouth, Tom?
I did eat a Jaffa cake during that break.
Despicable.
But I have now swallowed said Jaffa cake.
Taking your tie off earlier on in the week, eating at the desk. What's next?
It's the summer holidays. Other brands of actually, I don't
well,
think
Tom, it's not officially summer yet.
Jaffa cake is actually a brand. I think you can have different things that call themselves Jaffa cake because it's not copyrighted. But I might be wrong on that.
Very interesting. Well, last week we spoke to Andy Burnham during the launch of his Makerfield by-election campaign. In the interview with GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, he confirmed he would support Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's policy on immigration if he gets back into national politics.
Well, this week, our very own Sophie Reaper has spoken to Michael Winstanley from the Conservative Party and Robert Kenyon from Reform UK, both standing in Makerfield for their thoughts.
Net migration figures came out last week and they showed, some would argue, that Shabana Mahmood's plan is in fact working. If you became the next MP of Makerfield, are you going to support the Home Secretary?
I think we as Conservatives have been really clear of our plan to make sure that we reduce net migration, and what we're actually seeing from the figures last week is the measures that were taken towards the end of the last Conservative government when James Cleverly was in charge to actually reduce those number of people that are eligible to come here as well. So I think we've got a really clear plan to deal with both illegal and legal migration as well, and Kemi has actually gone into quite a lot of detail to how we're going to do that.
From one controversial subject to another, ban on social media for under 16s, do you agree or not?
I think it's certainly something that we need to do now. I think Kemi has rightly been pushing this for quite a long time, and Labour have constantly been opposing it. And once again, late in the day, we've had another U-turn where they seem now to be changing their mind. What we need is clear consistency, and that's what we're getting from the Conservatives rather than the flip-flopping from a Starmer government.
What is the main issue that's been coming up for you on the doorsteps when you've been out canvassing?
I think the main issue that I've been experiencing when I've been talking to people is about the lack of regeneration on our high streets, and we can actually see the work that's going on here in Ashton and Makerfield, which is the money that came from the last Conservative government. We need to reclaim our high streets, and people are really concerned about that, and that is a big issue that's been coming up and people have raised with me as I've been going round.
Well, on that then, what would you do to help regenerate the high streets?
I think as Conservatives we've been really clear about what we want to do. We want to actually reduce business rates, which will hopefully then make it easier for shops and businesses to thrive. We obviously want to cut some of that red tape and regulation as well, and that will help to drive the footfall and generate people back into our high streets. And we've got a number of shops and high streets across the Makerfield constituency, including Hindley, that we really want to make sure people are coming back to and supporting our businesses.
If you had a message to voters here in Makerfield who perhaps are looking for an alternative on the right-hand side, what would your message be?
My message is quite clear. I want to be the Member of Parliament for Makerfield. You know, I was born here, I live here, I was educated here, I represented a ward on the constituency here as well, and, you know, this is my home.
What is the main issue that you've heard from voters so far when you've been knocking on doors canvassing?
I said the biggest issue, the biggest underlying issue is they've been ignored for the past 40 years. We've knocked on doors that haven't had a knock on the door from any political party in the last 40 years. So the underlying reason is just being ignored, basically, taken for granted that they're just going to vote for Labour all this time. And You know, that tide's changing now.
And can you promise that if you were to get in as the MP that you would change that the people would no longer feel ignored?
100%. You know, I love speaking to people on the doorsteps, even if they are, you know, if they are voting for Labour or whoever, I'll still listen to them. You know, I've still got a voice, and I'll still represent them. If they do get elected and they do vote for a different party, I'll still be their MP, and I'll still listen to them and represent them as best I can.
Now, last week, I want to ask you, because the net migration figures come out, and a lot of people would argue that that shows that the Home Secretary's plan is working. Would you agree with that? And if so, would you continue to support Shabana Mahmood if you were to become the MP for Makerfield?
I think we had nearly 1,000 people come over illegally in the Channel yesterday. I think that's one of people's biggest concerns. What I would say is the plan on illegal immigration definitely isn't working. She might put into plans to deal with net migration, but I think the biggest problem that people are feeding back to us on the streets is illegal immigration. So that's not working. So that's, you know, that needs to change rapidly, because it puts a massive strain on our infrastructure. It puts a massive strain on our policing, our hospitals. It also puts a lot of us at risk when, you know, you only need to look at a place like Wigan. We've got over 200 HMOs, maybe 300. They're not regulated. We don't exactly know where they are. People who are coming into the country illegally are being put in them HMOs right next in residential areas, and you know there's a potential risk there, potential danger. So I'd say that needs the attention of the attention of the Labour Party and the government ASAP.
Well, that was the Conservative and the Reform Party candidate. Let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope.
Of course, other parties have views also on immigration. The Lib Dems believe they back a more humanitarian, organised, streamlined approach towards it. They reject what they call hostile measures like offshore processing. The Tories' Rwanda scheme never really got off the ground, did it, of course. They want more safe and legal routes, the Lib Dems, on migration. They will scrap what the Illegal Migration Act and replace the Home Office decision-making process with a unit designed to process claims quickly and fairly. The Greens are broadly similar. They advocate for open and compassionate migration policies. They also oppose what they call the hostile environment towards migrants being here. They want to end deportations, provide amnesty for those who are here without official documentation. They would abolish detention, and they would replace the Home Office too, as in part in the same way the Lib Dems would. And Restore Britain is more to the right of politics. They would advocate for the immediate mass deportation of all illegal migrants, proposing the removal of millions of people over a 3-year period. Their primary goal is to achieve negative net migration by drastically cutting back legal and illegal entries. And also they propose a two-pronged approach, Tom and Emily, on forced removals and a highly hostile environment, as they would say, to drive voluntary self-deportation. Voluntary self-deportation, and just finally, they would prefer to have much more austere detention centres. So that's other parties' approach towards migration.
Very interesting. Well, there you go. Now, the Makerfield by-election will take place on the 18th of June, following the resignation of Labour MP Josh Simons. The candidates announced so far are
Andy Burnham for the Labour Party, Alan Howlin Lord Hope for the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Robert Kenyon for the Reform Party, Rebecca Shepherd for Restore Britain, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party, Jake Austin, the Liberal Democrats,
Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, Peter Mark Ward from the Rejoin EU Party, Sarah Wakefield for the Green Party, Ed Gemmell for the Climate Party, Robert Pownall, Independent, Protect the Wild, John Alfred Dyer, another independent, Paul Richard Gold, independent, Count Binface from the Count Binface Party.
Well, now, the warm weather has sparked a row over housing regulations.
Yes, the Tories have pledged to overturn what is effectively a net zero ban on air conditioning in new homes.
This is Brits baking in record-high May temperatures. However, it won't be straightforward, as Green campaigners have warned that air conditioning harms the environment due to the amount of electricity aircon uses.
OK, well, it's a tricky one. Let's speak to the head of policy at Britain Remade, Sam Demetrio. So, yes, what are the Conservatives getting at here?
So there are a number of barriers to having air conditioning installed in people's homes. And one of the key barriers is a rule around new build housing. These are special regulations designed to prevent new builds from being basically too warm to be comfortable in. But strangely, because of various concerns around the environment, particularly around energy use, they essentially say that you have to do every single thing possible in terms of passive cooling means, which means things like have smaller windows, because if you have a really, really big window and the sun gets in, that will warm your house up. Do sorts of things like having windows on multiple sides of the building, which can, in the case of flats, mean that you reduce a lot of the density of the building. So there's loads and loads of things you have to do before you can even consider mechanical cooling or air conditioning. And what the Shadow Energy Secretary is getting at here is essentially saying that we should get rid of these rules that say you have to do everything before you can get to mechanical cooling, before you can get to AC, because then builders would be much more likely to actually build these things. So in theory, it's not banned, but in practice, you have to jump through so many hoops that very few new builds are actually being installed with this. And the crazy thing is, it's actually probably a net good for the environment, a net good for the grid we're building, for two reasons. First, we've put a load of solar power on the grid. So when it's really, really hot, that typically means it's really, really sunny too. So actually at this time, we have more solar power than we know what to do with. And in the future, we're going to have even more. And second, one of the ways you can cool a building down with air conditioning is you can get the traditional units, but you can also get heat pumps that work both as AC units in the summer, but also as heaters in the winter. And because they're electric, they're a lot more efficient, and that means that you burn a lot less carbon as a result, so they're good for the environment too. So it's a bit of a win-win.
It seems crazy that we've got all of these regulations that are ostensibly green regulations, but they are preventing the installation of heat pumps, which is green, and they are preventing good use for solar power when it's a really sunny day. The Americans have absolutely cracked this. They get loads of electricity when it's a sunny day, which they use in air conditioning, and 90% plus of American homes have air conditioning. Even in some of the colder parts of the United States, it still gets warm. Britain is becoming warmer and warmer and warmer. How long can we stay in this mindset that we just can ignore this technology that is now seen vital in workplaces in our homes?
Exactly. And I think what was really interesting was that last week you saw the Climate Change Committee say that when it comes to new schools, to hospitals, we should be building with AC in mind. We should be making sure that these places don't become so hot in the future. And so we can get the benefits of warmer summers. We can go to the beach, we can have a nice time in the park, but when we get home, we can actually have a good night's sleep.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Sam Demetriou. I would quite like a bit of air conditioning in my flat at the moment, but alas, I'm not sure how feasible that might be.
Well, I mean, you can buy one of these. This is what's really crazy is that a lot of people are moving into new build flats that, because of all of these regulations, aren't allowed to, or it's really, really expensive to do all the other mitigations that mean you're allowed to have air conditioning, which then means people buy these very expensive new flats and then buy these units that they have to stick a hose out of the window. And you see this quite a lot in London now, because people have bought their own units of air conditioning and sort of retrofitting them in with the hose nozzles sort of flopping out of the window rather than it being installed in the first place.
You know, it was a hot day when I gave birth. And we had an air conditioning unit in the room, and I had to put the pipe out of the window myself. Because we didn't realise why it wasn't getting any cooler, and it was because the pipe was actually in the room rather than outside, so we were all sweating for no good reason. Poor child was probably boiling hot.
Oh no! I can't believe that. Why didn't Patrick do the nozzle?
Oh, you know, useless.
You're the one who puts up the shelves, aren't you?
No comment. I wouldn't wish to embarrass him. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Can you put up a shelf?
I can, actually.
OK. Well, we've got lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, new analysis shows almost 125,000 young jobless Brits have been on universal credit their entire adult lives. How do we get young Brits off benefits?
But after the break, London Mayor Sadiq Khan has praised his 4,000 free water refill points across London during the heatwave. But is this plastic chic design the best Britain's got?
Well, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, stay right here at home. But if you'd like to have some in a different country, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The temperatures may start to fall across the UK over the coming days, but it remains hot across central and western parts of Europe. Here, a heat wave continues. Sunny spells across the Canary Islands, temperatures approaching 30 Celsius, the mid-30s for parts of Spain and Portugal, cooler around the coast. That will lead to the risk of some thunderstorms on Thursday across parts of Italy, perhaps Greece as well, and temperatures here above average. And it remains on the hot and sunny side as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The heat wave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud as well as some cooler air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. It is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. It will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 is closed at Inchmagranachan due to a vehicle fire. On the M5 northbound in Worcestershire, 2 lanes are closed between junctions 5 and 4A after another fire, causing 50-minute delays until 1:30 this afternoon. In Suffolk, the A14 eastbound between junctions 55 Copdock and 57 Ipswich East has 30-minute delays. The A46 southbound in South Gloucestershire faces 10-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruptions between Watford Junction and London Euston, and between Crewe and Wilmslow. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 8 minutes to 1 o'clock, and water refill points are dividing opinion in London.
Yes, there are free water refill points, and there are now over 4,000 in the capital, apparently. There's no doubt they serve a purpose, but do they have to be so ugly?
Now, it's worth saying that these particular plastic watering points, installed by the Mayor Sadiq Khan, I think there are just over 100 of these particular designs. The rest of the 4,000 is made up of pre-existing water fountain points or restaurants that have signed up to his scheme. But it's a very good thing that people can get free drinking water, especially as the weather's getting hotter. But, I mean, we used to make things that looked a little bit prettier.
We did.
In fact, I think we've got a picture of the first ever free water fountain in London, which was installed by the Victorians.
Yes, this is 1859, I think. We're just about to have a little look at it, I believe. There it is. Look, a nice sunny day. Now, what I will say is I'm not sure you have enough space there for your big bottle to stick it under that tap.
No, I think that's very much a sort of put your head to the nozzle sort of thing.
Which, you know, isn't great if you've, I don't know, got some nice makeup on.
But you could imagine that having a slightly higher arch with plenty of room for a bottle. It's not beyond the wit of man to design things that sort of fit in with the environment, rather than looking like something that's on a Playmobil spaceship.
It does look a bit Playmobil style, doesn't it? Maybe we're getting angry over nothing. Let us know. Perhaps you like that chic design. But we're going to get back to your rising energy bills in just one moment after this break.
Absolutely. With you after the very latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The heatwave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud as well as some cool air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. Is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. It will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I'm not sure that we used to celebrate VE Day or even the end of the Second World War until recent years, and that's a reflection of the fact that the veterans who fought and took part in that campaign and everyone on the home front are themselves disappearing. Yes, it's partly to do with education. There are huge political pressures on what's in education and in the history package, which of course isn't compulsory. When we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, there was a much higher understanding of what past sacrifice meant. And people, of course, were seen far more often in uniform in the streets, and they were coming back from operational service and about to depart. And that all makes a huge difference. Now, of course, war is very distant. It's in the Gulf. It's in Ukraine. It's not impacting us in the same way that it was doing about 20 years ago.
Matthew, let's bring you in at this stage. Do you think Gen Z is ignorant to Britain's war heroes, or do you think it's just a lack of curiosity?
Yeah, I don't think Gen Z are ignorant. They're just a matter of being the way they've been brought up, how they've been brought up, and when they've been brought up. You know, when this generation have been coming through school, there hasn't been the veterans, because the veterans of the Second World War and the First World War have passed away. So it's not in their face as much. The rhetoric that they're getting taught in schools has been influenced a lot in the past sort of 30, 40 years with more left-wing, and I don't mean, I'm not trying to drag this into a political bias, but there is more left-wing rhetoric getting passed out in school.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 27th of May. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Now, households will be hit by a £221 increase in their energy bills as the government blames the war in Iran for driving up energy costs. Well, the Shadow Energy Secretary, Claire Coutinho, spoke to GB News earlier.
You can't nationalise whilst you're shutting down the North Sea. You can't have AI whilst Ed Miliband's making your electricity more and more expensive.
Keir Starmer has shown strength, determination and intelligence in setting Labour back on a winning path.
Tony Blair was quite complimentary of Sir Keir Starmer 4 years ago, but now Sir Tony Blair says it's not just Keir Starmer's personality that's the issue, it's the total lack of any coherent plan for the country. That's as he warns against a lurch to the left.
The headline of Tony Blair's essay is the Labour Party is playing with fire over its future and the future of the country. Is Keir Starmer listening to this? A wake-up call for the PM.
Elsewhere, South East Water is facing renewed scrutiny from members of Parliament after taps run dry during the May bank holiday heatwave, as more than 1,000 customers across Kent and East Sussex were left without water during the weekend of a series of infrastructure failures. Is it any wonder that we haven't built a reservoir in 30 years?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Birmingham's new reform councillors have sparked anger by calling for an English-only rule at Birmingham City Council. That's after an Islamic prayer was recited during the annual mayor-making ceremony. So, should British councils only conduct themselves in English? We'll have the debate.
And in concerning news, around 90 drones plummeted from the sky above Sydney's Darling Harbour during an aerial drone show, prompting a second display to be cancelled. Well, stay tuned to find the rest of this astonishing footage.
With Moonbase, Artemis astronauts will stay longer, explore farther, and conduct the kinds of science that advances exploration itself.
America is racing China to put humans back on the moon as NASA unveils plans for a permanent base. And Tom, you know one of Rachel Reeves's measures to cut the cost of living is to cut tariffs on some imported goods.
Yes.
We've received the published list.
Oh, we do. And remind me, could we change our own tariff schedules when we were a member of the European Union?
I don't believe so. I think that was one of the reasons people voted for Brexit.
It was. Control of our own trade policy.
Oh, yes. Rachel Reeves is benefiting from this. So we've got Christopher here as well, who might want to join in on this.
Brexit wasn't all that bad, was it?
I'm looking at the list. So aubergines won't have any tariffs. Chewing gum. Dried papaya, of which I eat a tremendous amount. Fonio. What's that? Fonio? Never heard of that. Gherkins, I like a gherkin. Marzipan and pastes.
Oh, great. Christmas is coming up.
Various olive oils. Quinoa. for those who enjoy that.
North London, very keen.
And throat pastels.
OK, also on the list, avocados, baked beans, bananas, biscuits, boiled sweets, bread, buckwheat, chewing gum...
Oh, those are the boring normal essentials.
Yeah. Well, people
What
might
about
be
the dried
interested.
papaya,
The
Tom?
green tea is going to be zero tariffs, jams and marmalade, Paddington Bear will be delighted, limes and licorice... yeah, all sorts of olive oils. And olive oil is actually really expensive.
She's been telling us to buy British, hasn't she, today? Or
Yeah.
yesterday? Or sometime this week?
Yes, and urging public services to do the same. I mean, this whole Brexit
Confusing.
row is in the past. I mean, as we'll be hearing from Tony Blair shortly. They're moving on. Or some are, some aren't.
Well, and what was really interesting from Tony Blair, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, is he was saying... even though he would like to rejoin the European Union, now would be a terrible time to do it because Britain's in a relatively weak position. Negotiating from this position where we've had no growth, where our debt's really high, I mean, we would get the worst possible rejoin deal. So even those that want to rejoin are saying, don't do it now.
So enjoy your cut-price preserved beans for now. Get in touch, gbnews.com/yoursaver. Let's get to the headlines with Tatiana.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories: household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hits bills. Ofgem saying a household using a typical amount of gas and electric will pay £221 more a year. The jump will equate to a rise of £18 a month for the average household. The energy cap covers 33 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister has argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone, he says. He criticised the government for decisions on welfare, stopping the US from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran, and urged Labour to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats. However, Sir Tony warns Labour against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
The thing that I would agree with Tony on is if you don't have a proper diagnosis of what's going wrong with the country, then you will fail. You saw that with previous Conservative governments. You've seen that with the Labour government. You're seeing that with reform at the local level. If you don't get a grip on the legal things that are holding us back, like net zero legislation, the regulators, the regulation, the taxes, all of those things, if you don't rewire the system, then governments will keep failing the British public. And, you know, we just can't go on like this. We have to understand what we need to do for the country. And one of the most important things is to bring back growth.
Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury Dan Tomlinson disagrees with Mr Blair.
On some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
In other news, a body has been found by rescuers searching for a teenager who went missing while swimming in open water in Cheshire. Meanwhile, police believe a body found in the search for a 12-year-old boy who went missing while swimming in a river in Lancashire is that of the child. He was with his friends when he got into difficulty in the River Ribble yesterday afternoon. In all, 6 people have died in water-related incidents during the heatwave in England. Elsewhere, rescuers in Laos have found 5 villagers alive inside a flooded cave after they were trapped for a week following heavy rain and landslides. 2 other villagers who were with them are missing. Lao and Thai rescue teams involved in the operation have said. The 7 were part of a group of villagers who'd gone into the cave 7 days ago in search of gold deposits and wildlife, but couldn't get out as the cave's entrance was blocked. Footage shared by the rescuers shows cave divers crawling through narrow, muddy passageways that were almost completely flooded. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 1. Now, Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, is pressing ahead with his net zero drive, insisting higher bills show that Britain must move faster towards homegrown power that is of the renewable variety, despite households now being hammered with a £221 annual energy bill increase.
Yes, millions of households are set to suffer following Ofgem's decision to raise the price cap again from July.
Well, it's the latest blow for working Britons, and it sparks a key question. How much further could household bills rise from here? And is the answer more net zero?
Well, joining us now is the Labour MP for Chesterfield, Toby Perkins. Thank you very much for joining us, Toby. Is the Iran war the only reason why we're seeing this price cap rise?
It's definitely the major reason. We've seen a 50% increase in the wholesale price of gas, much smaller increase in the wholesale the price in energy, and clearly we are reducing our dependence on gas, but we're still far too dependent on the wholesale gas markets, and so like many countries across the world, we are affected. But we are very exposed because of the extent to which we have been dependent on that.
And why have bills already gone up 5 times under Labour? You've only been in power since July 2024.
The prices have gone up and they've gone down. We reduced the bills by an average of £117 with the changes that we made in the budget. We are currently at a very high level of price, and the only way that we reduce being victim to international price shocks is to produce our own energy, which is precisely why Ed Miliband says that we need to be driving forward further and faster on GB produced clean energy through renewables.
And it's commendable to say that we should be producing more electricity generation. That makes a lot of sense. The problem is with renewables, it's not that they exist and they can produce energy. It's that what happens when the sun isn't shining and when wind isn't blowing, because renewables are fundamentally an unreliable technology. In order to make them reliable, you need to spend a lot more money on backup, whether that's battery storage, which is very, very expensive, or whether that's gas-fired power stations that you need to be able to switch on and off very quickly to make up for the change in generation that you get from things like wind farms. I mean, ultimately, you need to sort of have that energy twice over to get the same amount from a reliable baseload like nuclear or gas when it comes to renewables. This doesn't seem to be something that the Energy Secretary acknowledges particularly often.
Well, I mean, the technologies are developing, and so, battery technologies are improving. We definitely need a strategic view on what we're going to do with our gas production, because it is true that we will need gas going forward to 2050. It doesn't mean that we'll need the amount that we've got now. Our dependence on that will continue to fall. It's fallen quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years, and it will continue to fall. But I mean, it's also the case that if we didn't go forward with renewables, we would have huge investment in gas to make, because it's not just a case that we can just carry on with the existing gas power stations. Many of those coming to the end of their life within 8 to 10 years will be needing to build a whole new raft of gas power stations.
Toby, I completely get that argument.
It's more expensive than new renewables.
But do you not think, therefore, it is then disingenuous for the Energy Secretary to use the lowest possible costings for things like solar and wind, where he's not including all the system costs that are required of that, the new pylons, the battery storage or the backup in other ways. But when it comes to gas-fired power stations, when he uses his spreadsheets, he points to the maximum possible cost that does include all of that paraphernalia and the new power stations that are expensive to build, as you've just described. He's comparing apples and oranges when he's comparing these prices.
Well, I think the most important thing for us to do, therefore, is to listen to the Independent Climate Change Committee, ignore what the politicians say on the left or the right. And the Climate Change Committee are absolutely clear that renewables don't just make environmental sense, they make economic sense, and that the cost of new gas is more expensive than the cost of new renewables.
If you don't include the backup storage.
By an independent body.
Yes, there are a lot of assumptions made when we come up with these projections in terms of costing. The Institute of Economic Affairs, for example, has done some research and they think that the cost of net zero could exceed £7.6 trillion, and that we underestimate the cost of renewables, the costs of heat pumps, the cost of electric vehicles, and also rely on sort of low borrowing costs as well, which don't factor in some of the rises there. But Toby, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Toby Perkins, Labour MP for Chesterfield. What we do know, though, is that we were promised a reduction in our bills. I think £300, was it?
Yes.
Ed Miliband, and I think they've gone up by 400. So there you go.
Well, let's cross now to our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, Anna Riley, who joins us from Sheffield. Anna, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. Yes, we're here at Tycoon. It's a Thai restaurant here in Meadow Hall in Sheffield. And I'm joined now by Ian Lee. He's known as the Restaurant Man, and he's also the Managing Director for Thai Leisure Group, which owns this restaurant and 14 others across the UK. So, Ian, thank you for joining us. We know, of course, that this rise is going to be 13% from July. We know that roughly it's going to go up per household over £200, but it's going to be an even bigger cost to businesses.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very significant cost to us. We've got 14 sites, but even 15 sites, sorry, but even one site, the energy consumption is very, very significant. With the best will in the world, you don't have energy efficiency really running in these places. You've got ovens and chillers all competing with each other in a very tight space. You've got air conditioning outside for the customers. You know, the energy consumption is high. So yes, a big impact on us across the board. Plus we've got our suppliers as well who are also being affected by it, so there's a knock-on effect there. And we don't get the choice of when we can be efficient and when not. We're working 24/7 with our chillers, and when the customers are in the restaurant, that's when we've got to deliver for them. You know, so it's going to be very difficult.
And of course, you're still reeling from the national insurance hike. One of your restaurants in Cambridge had to close as a result.
That's right. This on its own might not be an issue, but it's the accumulative effect, what I call the heaping up. There's so many different factors now coming to play. We're very vulnerable, we're very exposed as a sector, and so this is on top of everything else. I've always said, you know, the Iran war, the Ukraine war maybe are uncontrollable. Well, controllable by people outside our country, but not internally. But national insurance was a tax applied by this government on our sector, and all working companies, but in complete ignorance of the impact it would have in hospitality, where the margins are so tight and our labour costs are very high relative to our sales. So adding that extra burden on is enough to take some companies over the edge. And it's by far the biggest cost any restaurant now has. So now with this on top, it makes it even worse. And you're just looking at heap and heap and heap. Something's got to give. I think that's what should be giving.
Because that's what the government would say, you know, they can't control the Iran war, they can't control fuel prices going up, but you're saying the government could do more to support business.
I'm absolutely sure of it, and last week Rachel Reeves proved it, because she lowered VAT to 5% for theme parks and zoos, etc., and children's meals over the summer months. That proves she can do it. Previously she said she can only do things at budgets. She did it last week. In a month or so, and this is a lever they've got, and they could adjust it. They could adjust it for the whole of hospitality, or they could go slightly wider, but either way it's something that would stimulate the economy and would sort out a real mess that has been created by this government that they could now fix. A lot of restaurants, cafes and bars are going under every day. They reckon between 3 and 4 a day as a result of this. That needs to change, and they could do it.
Thank you so much, Ian. Really interesting there to get Ian's take on the recent energy off-gen price cap going up. And I've been offered a lovely pad thai here at the restaurant, so I'm going to go off and enjoy that now.
Oh, delicious. Anna, thank you very much indeed for being there and bringing us that interview. It is tough at the moment for hospitality.
Yeah.
Trying to turn a profit. The margins are so tiny, as he was saying.
Yeah.
Can be, anyway.
Really, really tough. Well, earlier today, the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, said this. The rise in the price cap because of a war we did not choose is deeply unwelcome news for households across the country. We know people were under pressure before the crisis, and that's why we're easing that burden is our #1 priority.
Well, friends of GB News can vote on today's poll. Yes, today we're asking, are you worried about rising energy bills? Now, currently 98% of you say yes, you are. and only 2% of you say no. And we were wondering whether that 2% were either doing very well indeed or were perhaps expats in Spain.
I think they
have
just
a
clicked the
contingent
wrong
over
button.
there.
They're either jokers or they're a little bit myopic.
Or maybe they don't like to worry about things. Maybe they're head in the sand type of person.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, if you are one of those 2%, do get in touch. We want to hear from you. But also, if you want to vote and change these percentages, gbnews.com/you decide is the way to do so.
Well, in other news, Sir Tony Blair has hit out and warned Labour against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him. He was very critical of the leader of the Labour Party, though, which is quite a change in his tune from about 4 years ago when he was singing Keir Starmer's praises.
Absolutely. Well, today there's an almost 6,000-word essay where Sir Tony said Labour was lacking a project and playing with the future of the country.
Well, Christopher Hope has read the essay, so you don't have to. Christopher!
Here it is, playing with fire over the future of the country. It's devastating, actually. If you look in the actual hard copy like I am now, it's 5,000 or no more than nearly 6,000 words long. It's an essay, it's a long article, but it does make a degree of sense. It almost takes apart this Labour approach to governing. They said they have an almost infinite capacity on the left for self-delusion. There was no coherent plan. They won in 2024 by being an acceptable default option to the Tory party. Credit to Keir Starmer, he says, but that was about it. There's no properly thought-through analysis. He blames the Corbyn years for that. He calls that an intellectual wasteland. He says that the problem, once you're in power, in government, there's no time to think of anything. He says that the problem isn't really Keir's personality, nor comms, as we often say in the bubble. It's because there's no actual worked-out coherent plan for the country in a fast-changing world. The government is governing from a Labour soft-left position, firmly in a comfort zone, and not asking the right questions. What he says is progressive. He's having cheap energy. He's not making it more expensive to hire people. I mean, all the things that, frankly, we are saying on this channel.
Wasn't Tony Blair, though, helping out sort of in the years up to Keir Starmer's win, or the months up to, doing a bit of consulting, helping behind the scenes?
He did a video, didn't he, saying that Keir Starmer is the answer. I think Peter Manson...
But in terms of looking at the policy, was he not...
Well, yes, there was some
he not
elements.
Advising Keir Starmer a little?
Yes, the Tony Blair Institute was offered up as they did some thinking on digital ID cards last summer, which became a policy last September. But he says he wants bolder choices to be made by this government, but the answer isn't really, for example, just Brexit, just going back into the European Union. It does not get us out of the situation we're in.
Yes, because it looks like the Labour Party are spending an awful lot of time thinking about the EU.
Yeah, well, that's right. And it's almost like the right have leaving the European Convention on Human Rights as their silver bullet. The left have Brexit. Arguably, neither are true. But Dan Tomlinson, he's the Treasury Minister, Tom, he has given the government's view of what they make of this essay by Tony Blair.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on 0-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning, woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that 0-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
A defence there of Angela Rayner, the Employment Rights Act, but that is making it more difficult to employ people. We heard from Next earlier this week. They say 19 jobs. People are going now for every single job rather than a dozen a few years ago. Hit by increasing national insurance, the employment rights issue, increasing minimum wage. It's getting harder to employ young people,
So
just as one case in point.
For someone behind the tills, for example, at a Next store, there are now 19 people applying for each one of those jobs.
That's what Simon Wilson said. And
it's just tough out there.
It's really hard for young people, and because employers are not willing to take the risk on employing seasonal labour when they can get rights to be there for much longer, when in February or March no one needs a Christmas-style number of workers.
And there's so much foreign labour coming over all the time, or at least there has been.
And yes, of course, it was Tony Blair who introduced the minimum wage. I suppose he would argue at that time it was controlled by a Low P Commission, I think it was called.
It's worth saying the timing is so important by telling you about this is a political moment. It's all quite quiet in politics. There's no PM queues today as there normally is. So he's dropped a brick into this mill pond in Westminster. And everyone's talking about this article.
He likes to do that. Well, thank you, Christopher. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up.
Yes, Labour hands Mauritius even more taxpayer cash after signing £35 billion in the latest twist in the Chagos surrender saga. Critics are accusing the party of being more interested in helping people abroad while British families are struggling at home.
But after the break, did you catch all that? South East Water is facing renewed scrutiny from MPs after taps ran dry during the May bank holiday heatwave as more than 1,000 customers across Kent and East Sussex were left without water during the weekend after a series of infrastructure failures. Do we have enough water
all
in
of
this
that
country?
And more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, it's 1:27. Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. Now, South East Water have come under fire again after more than 1,000 customers were left without any water during the bank holiday heatwave. That was following a series of infrastructure failures.
Well, it was only in December that residents across Kent and East Sussex last endured weeks of water supply disruption, resulting in a recent string of resignations at South East Water.
Yes, the MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield, said that despite a change in management, there had been no change in service or leadership. Well, joining us now is Conservative Group Leader at Kent County Council, Harry Rayner. Harry, thanks for joining us. So what's going on here then?
Well, it's South East Water circus yet again.
unable to supply or drinking water supply generally to a number of places throughout Kent, both in East Kent, in Central Kent around Maidstone, and in West Kent around Sevenoaks. Yet another disastrous performance. Difficulty with setting up water supply operations as an alternative, and difficulty having difficulty pumping water uphill.
Isn't one of the problems here not necessarily the water companies, although it's very fashionable to say, aren't these water companies terrible? Water companies have been attempting to build reservoirs across the southeast of England for the last 30 years. The last time we constructed a reservoir in this country was 1992. Since 1992, we've added to our population by, 15 million people? Without adding any more significant water storage facilities. I mean, at what point do we actually start to turn to look at local councils who have been, dare I say it, NIMBY on this issue, have blocked water companies from constructing reservoirs, and consequently, we end up in this situation where we've got many more people and the same number of reservoirs to support them?
I heartily disagree with what you've said there. Firstly, there are existing reservoirs that could be expanded. I'm thinking in terms of Bow Beach and others in Kent in particular. The South East Water has been prevaricating on their proposals for a reservoir in the Canterbury area, and over all the years that I've been a councillor in this area now for over 40 years, and we've yet to see a planning application come forward which would support your contention as just put.
Yes, I mean, they said, South East Water have said that the reservoirs are healthy, there's no shortage of water. But if we all use hoses at Saturday lunchtime, the water pressure drops and homes at the top of the hill can run dry. Now, I'm no physicist or indeed a plumber who might know about all this, but is it essentially that that the infrastructure is too weak, that the water can't push uphill? I mean, do you know the logistics here?
Yes. And the answer is you're absolutely spot on. The South East Water are short in terms of pumping capacity.
Pumping capacity, yes.
That manifests itself, as you saw with Tunbridge Wells, where they have clearly not prepared and serviced properly the Pembury pumping station and service station during the winter period that we just come out of. And you're clearly seeing the manifestation of being unable to reach so many communities who are uphill. My own division, for example, has a really large hill at Rootham, and we see now a tanker load after tanker load being drawn off the Stansted reservoir and taken away elsewhere. It's just Cape Carney's out there as far as water supply in Kent is concerned, and I'm here to tell you that story.
Yeah, I know the people of Tunbridge Wells, they went without for a long time.
Very long time.
Very long time. Terrible weeks, yeah. Harry Rayner, thank you very much indeed for your time, Conservative Group Leader at the Kent County Council. So basically, you have everyone using a bit more water because of the weather, and they can't pump it up the hill. Pretty rubbish, isn't it?
It's incredibly rubbish, but I would also say this is a capacity issue as well as a pumping issue.
Well, they're saying it's not, but definitely there is a capacity issue because we've added huge numbers of people to the population
who
require water.
And that stretches the amount that can be pumped.
But it sounds a bit like South East Water need to figure out their pumping capacity a little better. Anyway, we did contact South East Water for a comment, but they're yet to respond. But previously, they said they were concerned about water supplies in the area, but storage levels have recovered. They say they're sorry to all impacted customers for the disruption caused, and they know that water supply issues during hot weather are deeply frustrating and incredibly inconvenient, and we are working as quickly and safely as possible to resolve them. I would be very angry indeed if I couldn't turn my tap on now.
Why do we have water shortages, but Dubai and Israel don't? I mean, it's incredible. It's not an intractable problem. I mean, we're a rainy island nation, and Middle Eastern countries can get this right, and we can't. It's astonishing.
Yeah, should have gone into the water industry. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. About 90 drones plummeted from the sky above Sydney's Darling Harbour during an aerial drone show, prompting a second display to be cancelled. Stay tuned to see the rest of this quite dramatic footage.
Well...
Good afternoon. The top stories. Household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July. A soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hits bills. Ofgem saying a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity are to pay £221 more a year. Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone, he says. And the UK record for the hottest May Day has been broken for a second day running as parts of London surpassed 35 degrees. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me at 2 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. We've got lots more coming up.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Yes, astonishingly, that was in England. Birmingham's new reform councillors have sparked anger by calling for an English-only rule at Birmingham City Council after an Islamic prayer was recited during the annual mayor-making ceremony. So, should English councils only speak English? Well, we'll have that debate.
All that to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The heatwave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud as well as some cooler air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. Is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. It will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant disruptions are reported today. In Scotland, the A9 is closed at Inchmagranachan due to a vehicle fire, affecting southbound traffic. In England, the M5 northbound in Worcestershire has 2 lanes shut because of a vehicle fire, leading to 1-hour delays. Traffic is expected to normalise by mid-afternoon. In Hampshire, traffic on the A34 causes a 20-minute delay, and in Devon, the A38 westbound has 1 lane closed due to a broken-down vehicle. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruptions between Watford Junction and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1:38. Now, Reform councillors have called for Birmingham City Council to use only English. That's after an imam read an Islamic prayer in Arabic during a mayoral ceremony.
Well, in a letter to Lord Mayor Zakesh Chowdhury, Reform members said that while Birmingham is a diverse city, the council must remain accessible to all by using our national language. Take a listen.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
So should all council proceedings only be spoken in English in England?
Well, joining us to discuss this is the leader of North East Lincolnshire Council, Oliver Freeston. Now, Oliver, you're a Reform Party politician. What do you make of those who say the proposal from Reform in Birmingham is divisive?
Well, that word gets labelled at us quite often, and it's just like water off a duck's back now. The fact is that it should all be in English, not only because we're an English-speaking country, but also for those that are in attendance, that they can understand it. And I'm afraid it's the slow but steady erasure of our heritage in this country. And I'm really pleased that the Reform Council group in Birmingham are standing up and fighting against this.
Is the fact that it was an Islamic prayer from the Quran in particular a problem?
It's the fact that it's not in English, and also we're a Christian country, and I'm not afraid to admit that, and I'm quite proud about it. And in my own council chamber, the previous mayor scrapped Christian prayers, and I was outraged by it. We should respect our culture and heritage. And as I said to you, slowly but steady, they will try and do this, and it's on us to fight back and protect.
Now, of course, the Reform Party have complained about this in Birmingham, but no party currently controls Birmingham Council. It is the most remarkable sort of equally divided between pro-Gaza politicians, Greens, Lib Dems, Labour, Reform, Tories. It is just the biggest mess of a council where it's seemingly nothing can be agreed. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, it's going to play out in the media, isn't it? I mean, already it's been a big story, and a lot of people across the country are going to be rightly furious about this. And I think it's the minority who will speak out and make a lot of noise and call us racist and label us far right and everything. This is just common sense of the ordinary folk up and down the country. So I think there'll be a lot of support for the Reform councillors.
I mean, one of the criticisms is that this was the first formal contribution from Reform since they emerged as the biggest single group in the council chamber. So the suggestion is, why is this a top priority for Reform councillors?
Well, that's like saying we shouldn't deal with any small issues because there's always bigger fish to fry. Of course there is. We take each issue as they come. And when people voted for Reform, they knew they were voting for a party that would protect and stand up for our culture and heritage. And to what might seem a small issue for some people, to a lot of voters who put their trust in Reform, this is a huge issue, and it rightly riles them up.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who want this country to remain a Christian country, and they look back at the heritage of our liberal democracy, very much Christian values interwoven with it all, and worry about this type of thing.
Yeah, it is...
It's quite shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think that there does seem something slightly strange about opening a session with a particular religion that isn't the religion of this country, but is a religion that of a substantial minority of this country. I mean, it starts to raise a question about how do we approach this sort of diversity? Because it is worth saying Birmingham is an incredibly diverse city. I mean, there were 13 Islamic independent members of the 101-member council elected. There are also 19 Greens elected. I mean, a substantial proportion of that council is probably leaning towards the idea that there should be a sort of representation of the Islamic faith in the council. I don't know, is the answer here to go a bit more French, to go a bit more secular?
The answer is we're a Christian country, and people shout me down for saying that, but we still have Christmas, we still have Easter Sunday, all our bank holidays are mainly focused on Christian background. So no, we stand up for what we believe in, same as if we went to a different country that was of a different religion, we would respect that. So I don't think that we give in on this.
OK, well, Oliver Freeston, thank you very much indeed for your time. Leader of the North East Lincolnshire Council. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I completely agree, I must say. We need to maintain the Christian heritage of this country, and I don't believe that there should be an Islamic prayer at the start of a council meeting.
No, not
is that really controversial? Because the Birmingham Mail local newspaper wrote this up as there's outrage at Reform councillors' suggestion that it should be English only, as if that's some kind of bigoted approach. I'm sorry. If we want to be a cohesive country, you know, you need to remember the heritage of our own country and that people speak English.
And that's not to say that you can't have religious pluralism. I mean, I don't think that anyone would complain about, for instance, I mean, that there are members of Parliament in the House of Commons who can swear in on a Bible or on a Quran or on a Torah or on the holy book of their faith. Swear in on that, fine. I don't think anyone is opposed to that. But the idea of changing, I mean, for example, the House of Commons starts with prayers. I mean, the institution of the Commons grew out of St Stephen's Chapel, a religious chapel. That's why the benches face each other. It sort of looks a little bit like a church, because that's sort of how it evolved.
Do Christians need to be more assertive?
Although, I mean, a lot of people would say that we've sort of moved beyond being a deeply religious Christian country.
Yeah, perhaps that's a sad thing. I don't know. Dom says Christianity is the foundations of our democracy. If you take that away, what do you have? Eric says, of course, any and every council meeting in the UK should be completely conducted in English. If it is for those who come here to fit into our society, not impose their own ways. And a lot of you saying similar things, to be honest. Some saying that if you go to a Muslim country, they won't necessarily let you practice your religion openly. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear from people that are really passionately opposed to what Reform have said on this one. But the Birmingham City Council spokesman has said it's standard for every Lord Mayor to ask a local religious leader of their choice to do something at the start of the mayoral year, if they wish. In this case, a blessing was performed for the Lord Mayor in his particular faith. Any Lord Mayor of any faith would have an equal opportunity to do the same.
Yes. Well, time for the Great British Giveaway. £76,543.21 could be in your wallet very soon. Here's how to enter.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. That is extra cash that you could use to buy those treats you've always wanted, put a new car on the drive, or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. £76,543 and 21 pence is an incredible amount of money, and it could be all yours. For a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, about 90 drones plummeted from the sky above Sydney's Darling Harbour during an aerial drone show, prompting a second display to be cancelled. Stay tuned to see the rest of this dramatic footage.
But in the meantime, if you're in search of some holiday sun, not as far as Australia and not as close as home, here's the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The temperatures may start to fall across the UK over the coming days, but it remains hot across central and western parts of Europe. Here, a heat wave continues. Sunny spells across the Canary Islands, temperatures approaching 30 Celsius, the mid-30s for parts of Spain and Portugal, cooler around the coast. That will lead to the risk of some thunderstorms on Thursday across parts of Italy, perhaps Greece as well, and temperatures here above average. And it remains on the hot and sunny side as well.
All All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News Bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Colin, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And of course, you're wearing your full Chelsea pensioner regalia. It's a resplendent sight. Colin Thackeray, 2/3 of young people don't even know what VE Day is. You know what it is. You lived through it. Tell the nation how important it is and your memories of that beautiful day.
Well, extremely important to remember and to continue to remember. It means obviously victory in Europe. And it was a great day because everybody was happy and, you know, we all lived through 5 years of war and it was a smashing time. And I'd rather hope that people will continue to do so.
Do you think the problem now, Colin, is we've got a younger generation who are taught badly and they're taught often to be ashamed of British history. We talk about slavery, the evils of empire, yet we don't celebrate the genuine heroism of VE Day and people like yourself.
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, 2 years ago, we were in Korea. We went across for a revisit and I hadn't seen the place for 70 years. And it was extraordinary. The place was, the school was built up and the people were marvellous. And every child knows exactly when the war was there, what we were there for. And we were told, I was told by a 9-year-old, it never occurred to me, that look, if you didn't come, we would be living the same as North Korea. That's a shame, isn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, well, you've been getting in touch. The conversation we had about Birmingham City Council and the Islamic prayer leading the meeting. Fed Up says, should council business be conducted in English? The fact this is even a question shows how far we have sunk as a country. Just another milestone on our journey to a failed state. You do sound very fed up. Fed up?
Yeah.
You can't function you can just play it forward, can't you? You can play the tape forward and see how this will become more and more common. You might have different parts of different councils conducting all their business in different languages, and the left will just say, well, you know, if they want to speak their different languages, that's fine, because we're a diverse and inclusive society, not thinking about how much potential conflict might arise in the future as a result.
But the thing is, we're not even that diverse. I mean, we're 6% Muslim.
I think maybe we're more now. I think that's the 2021 census.
2021 census, yeah. But, I mean, it's not going to be that much more. I mean, the Muslim population hasn't doubled, for instance.
But it's concentrated, isn't it?
Well, this is one of the things. It gets sort of concentrated and ghettoised, and then you create these sort of two different countries within a country, and it gets very worrying.
Depressing. Anyway, this is a bit of a disaster too. Attendees at a light drone show in Australia were left shocked last night after around 90 aerial devices fell from the sky into the water at Sydney's Darling Harbour.
Well, the event organisers blamed unforeseen technical difficulties for the drone malfunction, whilst adding no injuries have been reported. All of the drones fell within the safety area.
Yeah, so there you go. There's the drone show.
Oh, look at them. Is that them falling there? No? What's going on there? They're still working. Let's see when do they fall?
Looks like a rave. Oh, the DNA.
And I think they started falling down. Oh, goodness me.
So the question is, should we just go back to firework displays, Tom? You know, the old traditional firework display.
I like a good firework display. I don't want to see them usurped or taken over by drone shows. But I also think drone shows are cool. I mean, we should not let... Just because...
That was a bit rubbish, though, wasn't it?
Just because Apollo 1 burnt to a crisp on the ground, we didn't cancel the rest of the programme.
Just a question, just putting it out there.
I sometimes things are going to fall out of the sky, and that's OK. We're learning, we're growing.
Dog owners out there will, of course, prefer drone shows because fireworks are not very nice for their little ears.
What I like is a hybrid show.
Hybrid.
Where...
Like Sadiq Khan's display. The Mayor of London presents you.
Right, yes, why not? Why not? A big, loud, explosive, colourful firework display, but with some cool drone stuff as well. It's the 21st century, why not?
Well, Vivid, who organised the event, have apologised for the disappointment and thanked everyone in attendance for their patience and understanding. So there you go.
Well, I'm glad everyone was safe. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come, so don't go anywhere. But first, let's take a look on that latest weather forecast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The heatwave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud as well as some cooler air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. It is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. Will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good,
because neither do I.
Those are just facts. I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 27th of May. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. Yes, households will be hit by a £221 increase in their household energy bills. That's as the government blames the war in Iran for driving up energy costs. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to us earlier.
You can't nationalise whilst you're shutting down the North Sea. You can't have AI whilst Ed Miliband's making your electricity more and more expensive.
Keir Starmer has shown strength, determination and intelligence in setting Labour back on a winning path.
Well, that was 4 years ago where Sir Tony was praising Keir Starmer, but now it's the Sir against Sir. As Sir Tony says, it's not just Sir Keir's personality that's the issue, but a total lack of any coherent plan for the country, as he warns against a lurch to the left.
Changing leader may not help, nor will going back into the European Union. It's a wake-up call for Labour, but is Labour listening?
Good question. Well, South East Water is facing renewed scrutiny from MPs after taps ran dry during the May bank holiday heatwave. More than 1,000 customers across Kent and East Sussex were left without water during the weekend after a series of infrastructure failures. Do we have enough water in this country?
Well, new analysis shows that almost 125,000 young jobless Brits have been on universal credit their entire adult lives. How do we get young Brits off benefits?
With Moonbase, Artemis astronauts will stay longer, explore farther, and conduct the kinds of science that advances exploration itself.
NASA's moon-based mission, America is racing China to put humans back on the moon as NASA unveils plans for a permanent base.
Now, the King has been busy.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he was visiting a research facility yesterday up in Yorkshire. It's the Animal and Plant Health Agency.
Oh, yes.
And they're doing something quite interesting that the King has endorsed. They're chemically castrating grey squirrels.
He's a bit harsh. What have grey squirrels done?
They're an invasive species. They've driven out the English red squirrel. And the King is patron of the Red Squirrel Survival Trust. So he's been...
Why should we only protect the indigenous, Tom?
Well, I think it's important when you've got an invasive species. So the grey squirrel, I think, was imported from America, and they've been outbreeding and outcompeting the red squirrels here at home. And I think a lot of people are rather upset that there could be the disappearance of the red squirrel.
I didn't know that the Isle of Wight, I was told this by one of our producers on earlier, that the Isle of Wight is the only place in the country, in England anyway.
Not true.
No?
No, they're in Formby.
Christopher's here to fact-check me.
No, so the statistic is that the Isle of Wight is the only place with no grey squirrels.
Yes, but
not that it's the only place with red squirrels. But they exist in the pine woods at Formby, just north of Liverpool, because they live in our garden. Wow.
Yeah.
And are they more pleasant than the grey squirrel variety?
They're like Beatrix Potter, I think, did the most for boosting red squirrels, the squirrel nutkin character. And these greys, they can hold fat on their body, whereas reds have to bury the food around the place and go back to food stores. But what happens is the greys come in, eat it all, and they put on their weight.
And so the red squirrels are sort of smaller and cuter.
Yes, big ears.
Yeah.
The king is patron of the red squirrel survival.
So he should be. They're really important.
And it's very good that he's endorsing this. This project, they're describing it in slightly euphemistic terms as a new oral contraceptive project designed to slow the growth of grey squirrel populations.
Hang on, who takes the oral contraceptive? The female squirrel or the male squirrel?
I think both of them. I think probably both. Let's call it what it is. It's chemical castration.
But is it like the pill that women take, or is it like something that affects the male anatomy?
I think I would imagine.
You don't know.
It depends if male or female scientist is designed. That will be the truth of it.
Yeah, I mean, women might prefer to castrate the men.
Yes, that's true.
The male squirrels.
I wonder which one's easier to do. I mean,
it's quite hard to do it.
There's probably someone watching right now who knows the answer to that very question. Please get in touch if you do.
Or with males of the species, there are millions of small gametes that are released.
Oh, yes.
Whereas with females of the species, there's only 1 or 2 large gametes. So it's probably easier to stop the 1 egg than it is the 1 million+ sperm.
Do you think we should go as far as to, in order to protect the indigenous squirrels, red squirrels, we should deport the grey squirrels?
I don't think that would be particularly... I think...
Just castrate them instead.
How would you'd round them up and put them on a boat? What?
Just a suggestion from one of our viewers.
I think that sounds like it's more trouble than it's worth. No, I think the King's got the right idea here. Well, do send your views and comments, gbnews.com/yoursay, or indeed scan that QR code on the screens. But that's enough about squirrels. Let's get to the news headlines.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. Household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hit bills. Ofgem says a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity will pay £221 more a year. The jump will equate to a rise of £18 a month for the average household. The energy cap covers 33 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister has argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone, he says. He criticised the government for decisions on welfare, stopping the US from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran, and urged Labour to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats crisis. However, Sir Tony warned Labour against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
The thing that I would agree with Tony on is if you don't have a proper diagnosis of what's going wrong with the country, then you will fail. You saw that with previous Conservative governments. You've seen that with the Labour government. You're seeing that with reform at the local level. If you don't get a grip on the legal things that are holding us back, like net zero legislation, the regulators, the regulation, the taxes, all of those things, if you don't rewire the system, then governments will keep failing the British public. And, you know, we just can't go on like this. We have to understand what we need to do for the country. And one of the most important things is to bring back growth.
Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury Dan Tomlinson doesn't agree with Mr Blair.
On some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
In other news, a woman has admitted being in charge of a dangerously out-of-control XL bully dog when it killed a teenager. The dog, named Prince, fatally injured 19-year-old Morgan Dorset inside a flat in Bristol in February last year. 24-year-old Kelsey Reid pleaded guilty today to being in charge of a dog dangerously out of control, causing injury resulting in death. Miss Dorset from Shrewsbury in Shropshire suffered fatal bites to her neck and during the attack. The dog was later put down. Police investigating the cause of a fire at a warehouse in Golders Green have confirmed it's not being treated as suspicious. The London Fire Brigade received 56 reports of a fire on Golders Green Road just before 7 o'clock this morning, which appears to have started behind a kosher supermarket. Following further inquiries alongside the LFB, it's believed to have been caused by an electrical fault. There are also no reports of any injuries. A body has been found by rescuers searching for a teenager who went missing while swimming in open water in Cheshire. Meanwhile, police believe a body found in the search for a 12-year-old boy who went missing while swimming in a river in Lancashire is that of the child. He was with his friends when he got into difficulty in the River Ribble in Lancashire yesterday afternoon. In all, 6 people have died in water-related incidents during the heatwave in England. Rescuers in Laos have found 5 villagers alive inside a flooded cave after they were trapped for a week following heavy rain and landslides. 2 other villagers who were with them are missing, Lao and Thai rescue teams involved in the operation have said. The 7 were part of a group of villagers who'd gone into the cave 7 days ago in search of gold deposits and wildlife but couldn't get out as the cave's entrance was blocked. Footage shared by the rescuers shows cave divers crawling through narrow, muddy passageways that were almost completely flooded. And the Prince of Wales believes England is closing in on its bid for World Cup glory this summer as he met backroom staff supporting the men's team. William, patron of the Football Association, made a private visit earlier this month to St George's Park in Staffordshire. He spoke to staff working behind the scenes alongside manager Thomas Tuchel and praised them for being unsung heroes. Those are the latest headlines. Here's the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound will buy you $1.35 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold, £3,340, and the FTSE 100 at 10,494 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 2. Now, Sir Tony Blair has warned that Labour are against forcing out Sir Keir Starmer without having a proper policy agenda to follow him. This as he launches a stinging, simultaneous criticism of the government's time in office.
Yes, indeed. In an almost 6,000-word essay, Sir Tony said Labour was lacking a project and playing with the future of the country.
Well, let's speak to our political editor, Christopher Hope, on more on this, because Tony Blair is saying more about day-to-day politics than perhaps he has at any point in his post-premiership time.
He really has, and the headline is clear. The Labour Party is playing with fire over its future and the future of the country. He's saying that because the future of the Labour Party is up for grabs, Tom, with the potential return to Parliament of Andy Burnham at some point in the future. West Streeting, others trying to challenge Keir Starmer way down in the polls. We're expecting a leadership battle at some point this year. It could happen or be triggered later this summer. And this piece is like an Exocet missile into the heart of the Labour operation. He's making clear that Tony Blair says we don't have a worked-out, coherent plan for the country in a fast-changing world. We're in the wrong political position from which we devise even a second term. Now, historically, if you win a 160-seat majority in Parliament, you almost guaranteed a second term in power because no other party has ever overthrown that scale of majority. But we live in different times in five-party politics.
What does he actually...
In 1950,
It wasn't that big, though.
Clement Attlee had an enormous majority in 45. It took 2 elections, but they were very... So he basically lost the... He had a very
so
small...
it took 2 elections, not one.
It took 2 elections, yeah, so technically right, but he went down to single-digit majority, and then there was another election in 51 where Churchill got back in.
Chris, are you going to allow this?
No,
it's mansplaining.
It's a useful footnote. The Labour Party is governing from essentially a Labour soft-left position. They say it's firmly in its comfort zone. This is a position not accepted by the government. Here's Dan Tomlinson, the Treasury Minister.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on 0-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that 0-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
OK, this is all very well. He's set up some problems, so Tony Blair has. But what does he actually want? You know, can't he just say who he wants to be running the country?
Well, he wants a radical centre. He wants this
government... What does that mean? Does he want Chris Starmer to stay on? Does he want someone new to come out?
He wants the party to move, frankly, into the centre ground and sit there like a big fat toad, and no one can touch it. That's what he did back in the 90s.
But can Keir Starmer do that? Is he suggesting that Keir Starmer could do that?
Yes, of course he can. He's the Prime Minister, Evelyn. Do what you like.
If he just changes... No, but is Sir Tony Blair suggesting that Sir Keir Starmer could do that if he just, you know, changed a few things?
Yes, exactly. I mean...
He is. Okay.
He says put the economy first and everything flows from that. If you get the economy ticking along, you start doing the socially liberal things you want to do, and no one complains, like maybe dealing with net zero in a more, you know, less of a kind of ideological way, which some would say Ed Miliband's doing, or maybe be firmer, more helpful to business to get the growth going, and then be more Labour. That's where he comes from. It's the economy.
Basically, he wants, you know, go right on the economy, and then you can
go left.
Lefty things on culture.
But that's what Shabana Moo's doing exactly that with the borders. She says secure the borders, and then we can start being more left-wing with migrants.
Delightful.
I think there is a legitimate argument there, which is I don't think people want no immigration forever in Britain. But you need to have trust in an immigration system, so you need to get on top of the most egregious excesses of it.
When was the last time people had trust in our immigration system, I do wonder.
I think there was actually...
Go on. Tell me.
Probably under John Major.
Under John Major. Yeah. Well, it certainly wasn't under Tony Blair, so I'm not sure he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Although
but he was very successful in many ways.
He was very successful in stopping illegal migration. So there was a big wave of illegal migrants and asylum claims, and he brought them right down.
Well, in other news, Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, who some people think is very left-wing indeed, is pressing ahead with his net zero drive, insisting higher bills show Britain must move faster towards more clean, homegrown power, despite households now being hammered with a £221 annual energy bill increase.
Well, millions of households are set to suffer following Ofgem's decision to raise that price cap from July.
This is the latest blow for working Brits, and it does spark a key question. How much further are these bills going to rise? And is more net zero the answer?
Well, I'm joined now by the author of The Age of Global Warming, A History of Green Tyranny, Rupert Darwell. Rupert, thanks indeed.
We know where you stand, Rupert.
Let me put to you then the case that Ed Miliband is making here. That we are at the whim of global prices, that wars that we can't control are sending our bills up. Wouldn't it be better, so says Ed Miliband, if we didn't use any of this nasty oil or gas at all?
Well, we've powered past coal, which people tend to forget, which is why we're more exposed to the price of natural gas. If we'd still kept coal-fired power stations, we'd actually be burning a lot more coal and less natural gas, which is what a lot of countries in the Far East are now doing. So that always has to be remembered. But the other thing, Tom, is that he talks about energy, having clean, homegrown energy that we control. He's claiming he controls the weather, Tom. That is deluded. He does not control the weather.
What? He doesn't? He was singing with his ukulele to the wind farms, wasn't he? A few years ago.
Yeah, the turbines weren't spinning all that quick. I mean, you click your fingers and the sun comes out. And although we're enjoying a fantastic heat wave at the moment, Britain is the one from bottom country for solar power in the world in terms of cloud cover, our latitude and so forth. It's 149 out of 150 countries.
That is absolutely true, but let me try and make you the bullish case for the sort of renewable revolution, which is that, yes, Britain is a lot less effective to put solar panels on than Spain or California, but we still do get power from them. Yeah, yes, we'll get less power, but we still do get power from these solar panels. Less effectiveness under grey skies, sure, but still some effectiveness. And particularly Britain is one of the most windy places in the world. We get a lot of wind, we don't exactly know where it is. What people who promote wind power say is that you don't want all the wind power in one place because you can't control the wind.
Yeah.
But if you have a bunch in Scotland, a bunch off East Anglia, a bunch off the south coast, and you have your interconnectors to the Dutch wind farms and the Danish wind farms, and you've got an interconnector down to France as well, there will be wind somewhere, and it all sort of balances about. What do you say to that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really. It doesn't all even out. You get these weather systems coming in from the Atlantic, and they tend to cover not just Britain but Western Europe with the same weather patterns. So if there's no wind here, it's often the case you have no wind in Germany. But the other thing that everyone forgets is that to keep the lights on, you need to have what they call dispatchable energy. That's nuclear, coal, gas-fired power stations. And so for every gigawatt of wind, you've got to have another gigawatt of coal or nuclear or gas. And so that's what drives up energy bills, because you've got to keep two systems running in parallel.
Well, Rupert, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Rupert Darwell, who is the author of The Age of Global Warming, A History of Green Tyranny. Great to have you on the show. Well, we're now joined by GB News personal finance correspondent Temi Laleya. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, we spoke to you earlier on the show about, energy bills, of course. They're going up. You can't stop that from happening. But how can we, get through the storm a little easier?
So
ride the storm easier.
Yeah, what I would say, first of all, there's around 22 million people who are already on a fixed rate, which means that the rate they pay out is already fixed, so they won't be affected by the price cap increase. So for those who aren't on a fixed rate, I would say now is the time to look around using comparison sites and see what is out there. So USwitch, Compare the Market. USwitch have said that there are so many deals that are right now around £248 cheaper than the current price cap. So in July, that's essentially taking out the increase. So it is important for everyone to have a look and see if they can go cheaper if they are not already on a fixed rate. There are also, once on a fixed rate, it's also important to check that you're paying the most efficient way. So direct debit users can save around £143 if compared to people that pay standard credit. So also making sure you're paying the most efficient way. Another way is making sure you're taking full use of your provider's reward schemes. So British Gas, Octopus, EDF, I know they all have schemes which they lower the rate at which you're charged at depending on the time of day that you use energy.
Oh, so you could run your dishwasher late at night and it might cost you less?
Yes, yeah. And then you do all your washing at one time, things like that. So that can really help, especially over the summer when everyone is at home. It's also important to make sure before the July price cap increase that people that have smart meters, even if you don't have a smart meter, that you take a meter reading to make sure that you are charged at June's the rate that the price cap is at now, rather than in July. So little things like this, they might seem like it's a bit harder to do, but they can make all the difference.
OK, well, Temi Laleya, thanks indeed for talking us through some of the ways to weather this storm that surely we're all sailing into together, but not every ship is in the same dilapidated condition.
Well, thank you for that, Tom. And if any of our viewers have any tips as well to share with us, how do you... someone wrote in and said that their solar panels haven't really helped. Their bills are 3 times higher anyway. I'd find the message, but it was earlier in the show.
Right.
But yeah, any other tips? Like, I don't know, how to make your toaster
Frankly, I'm not worried about my heating costs at the moment. I'm worried about keeping my house cool.
Well, yeah.
Boiler. Trying to sleep in this heat is a nightmare.
Yeah, you gotta, wear very little clothing.
Yeah.
Or indeed none at all, Tom.
But even then, I mean, what, you have a fan that's blowing your hot air at you? I mean, I think we all need to thinking about...
well, there's an image.
I think we all need to start thinking about investing in air conditioning. I think it's just time. We need to accept that we're becoming a hotter country. It's just what we need to have.
It's still only a couple of weeks a year, though, isn't it?
It's becoming more... It's May. I mean, we'd expect this in August. We'd expect this weather in, like, June, July or August, and it's May.
Well, should we see what Ed Miliband has to say? He says the rise in the price cap because of a war we did not choose is deeply unwelcome news for households across the country. We know people were under pressure before this crisis, and that's why easing that burden is our #1 priority. Well, for all our sakes, I hope that is the case.
Absolutely. Now, friends of GB News can vote on today's poll. We're asking, are you worried about rising energy bills? Well, currently, an astonishing 98% of you say yes, and only 2% of you say no.
Oh, it's still 98 and 2%.
Seems like it's been stuck for the last 3 hours, really. Again, I really do want to meet the 2%. If you're not worried at all, I mean, can I have some of your money? No. Right. The way to vote is, of course, gbnews.com/you decide.
It is. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, new analysis shows almost 125,000 young jobless Brits have been on universal credit their entire adult lives. How do we sort this?
But after the break, the Labour government is handing Mauritius even more taxpayer money after signing a £35 billion deal in the latest twist in the Chagos surrender saga. Well, critics are accusing the party of being more interested in helping people abroad, while British families are struggling here at home.
All of that and more. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
welcome
Good
back.
afternoon, Britain.
Trisha's got in touch with a tip for keeping cool.
Oh, yeah?
Tom, just you.
Right, just me.
Put your pillowcases in the freezer, in a bag. Brilliant on a hot night. Some people put top sheets in as well.
Sorry, put my pillowcases in the freezer?
Yeah, but put it in a bag first and then put it in the freezer so it doesn't get soaked.
Look, I've seen a lot of this stuff.
Might
right?
be nice, though.
There was some reputable news website saying put a bowl of ice water under your window, and it's like we do live in the 21st century.
We shouldn't have to live like this.
We don't have to sort of do the sort of strange medieval, I don't know, rain dances or whatever. Like we do have the technology to cool down our houses. It's just none of us sort of well, number one, there are regulations preventing new homes installing air conditioning as standard, and number two, I think we've got just a societal preclusion upon doing it. You can buy an air conditioning unit with a little hose that you stick out the window for about 300 quid. Now, that's a lot of money, but I think in the long run, that is something that will be an absolute worthwhile investment for most households.
James Bush is very pleased with his decisions. He says, my 30 rooftop solar panels are marvellous. I'm currently exporting 5 kilowatts to the grid, having charged my car and recharged my house batteries earlier today. Someone's given that the thumbs down.
Oh, no, but, I mean, but solar panels do work for a lot of people.
Bully for you, says Dubbing Needle.
I think particularly if you live in the south of England, that can be a very, very good thing.
My relatives up in Scotland have them on their...
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I think they'll probably get less electricity out of it than people in Kent. But I mean, you'll have but I mean, it's not to say they will get no electricity out of it.
Well, he's doing well with his 30. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Anyway, the government. This is a new story for you. The government has come under fire for handing over yet more taxpayer cash to Mauritius a year after provisionally signing a £35 billion deal to hand over the Chagos Islands to the African nation.
Well, the government has been accused of helping people abroad whilst Britain grapples with a cost of living crisis and has made some people question whether the government has its priorities correct.
OK, well, let's speak to Callum McGoldrick of the Taxpayers Alliance. Callum, explain this to us then.
Well, good afternoon and thank you very much for having me on. So this scheme, it's called the Strategic Partnership Framework. It's a plan to sort of bring in implementations into Mauritius to help further development in the future. Initially, it was set up sort of in line with the Chagos Surrender Deal, as it was named, with the aim of sort of further unlocking support for Mauritius.
I mean, this is one of the interesting things, because a lot of people who've been following the Chagos saga will have thought that the whole thing was put on ice, that none of our money was going to be sent abroad and that we were going to hold on to our islands, at least for now. And this would seem to suggest that actually what we thought was sort of a victory in holding on to our own territory and holding on to our own money doesn't seem so strong.
Well, you're right in that part of the deal was put on hold. The actual giving over of the islands was put on hold. But this is still listed as an active programme by the FCDO. A spokesman for them said that they're still committed to the objectives of it. And they've already spent £1 million of taxpayers' money in this financial year, with plans to continue that expenditure going up until at least 2029.
I mean, Callum, you'd think we were rolling in it with this kind of expenditure. Are we rolling in it as a country?
Well, it's sort of laughable that one of the principal objectives of this is to bring economic growth to Mauritius. I don't really know why the government thinks it can deliver that there when it's failed so catastrophically here. And I think many people, many of your viewers, would much rather see more of a focus on the government bringing these benefits here.
Well, I think that's probably quite right, Callum, but we're internationalist and humanitarian and all of this. Callum McGoldrick, thank you very much indeed. You're of the Taxpayers Alliance, always checking what we're spending our money on.
Yeah. I mean, this is the sort of thing that you can do if you're a very rich country. You can help out others. We're rapidly becoming not a very rich country, so it seems like these are sort of indulgences that perhaps we can't afford.
Yes, you do see a lot of progressive left-wingers talking about how rich we are as a country, but they don't look at the per capita.
There you go.
We're actually quite poor, aren't we? Sort of 28th, even worse than that.
We were sliding down the international rankings pretty quickly.
Is Poland already more per capita?
Not yet, but they're on course to be by 2030.
Think about that, eh?
Yeah.
A Foreign Office spokesperson said in response, national security is the first duty of this government. That's why, to fund a necessary increase in defence spending, the government has taken the decision to reduce the UK ODA budget to 0.3% of gross national income by 2027.
That's overseas development aid. Now, we remain absolutely committed to tackling the global challenges of hunger, disease, insecurity and conflict, but we have been clear we must modernise our approach to development to reflect the changing global context.
Right. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up.
With Moonbase, Artemis astronauts will stay longer, explore farther, and conduct the kinds of science that advances exploration itself.
NASA is going back to the future, announcing a moon base. Yes, America races China to put humans back on the moon before the end of this decade, and this permanent base. Now, landings could be as soon as this year. All of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines.
Oh, exciting.
Thank you. Household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hit bills. The regulator Ofgem has said a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity is going to pay £221 more a year. In other news, Sir Tony Blair has accused the Prime Minister of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. The UK record for the hottest May Day has been broken for a second day running as parts of London surpassed 35 degrees. Those are the latest headlines for now. Katie Bowen has your next news update at 3 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, we've got lots more coming up on today's show for you, including analysis that shows almost 125,000 young jobless Brits have been on universal credit their entire adult lives. How can we help them turn their lives around?
Well, all of that and more to come here with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. The heatwave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud as well as some cooler air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. Is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. It will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 is closed at Inchmagranachan due to a vehicle fire. The A5 remains closed at Menai Bridge with diversions in place. In Worcestershire, the M5 northbound between Junction 6 and Junction 4A is heavily congested with delays up to 1 hour. Hampshire's A34, southbound between the A272 and junction with the M3, is delayed. Devon's A38 westbound between the A384 and the A385 has one lane closed due to a broken down vehicle. On the trains, there are disruptions on Avanti West Coast services between Watford Junction and London Euston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 2. Now, a shocking new report has found that over 100,000 young people are stuck on benefits.
Yes, there are 124,164 people aged 25 and under who have claimed universal credit every single month since the age of 18.
That's roughly equivalent to a town the size of Lincoln. So what can be done to break the worklessness cycle?
Well, we're joined now by Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Helen Whately. Helen, I think it's important not to demonise these young people because speaking to parents, for example, and the young people themselves, they're finding it incredibly difficult in the job market to find a job. We were just hearing that at Next, there are 19 applicants for every single job.
You're absolutely right. And I'm in touch with lots of young people about this precise challenge. And hearing from young people who are telling me that they have applied for hundreds of jobs. In fact, one recently who told me that he'd applied for over 200 jobs and then been receiving back waves of rejections or, in fact, hearing nothing at all, which is really
so demoralising.
Demoralising, yes.
I suppose one of the issues here is that in order to get a job, generally you need some experience. I was lucky enough to, throughout university, I had some minimum wage jobs. I worked in a toasty bar. I worked in a
toasty bar.
Yeah, I worked in a pub. I was on a 0 hours minimum wage contract. Probably something that this current government would say was a really awful thing that no one should ever have to be on. But it worked really well for me. It gave me a bit more money to go out clubbing and the like, and it gave me a bunch of experience in terms of, you know, having a job and getting some of that cash. I suppose one of the issues here is that now the minimum wage has gone so high up and a lot of 0 hours contracts are now being abolished, that actually the sort of entry level of the jobs market has sort of, that rung has been taken away of the ladder.
So one of the big problems is the reduction in the number of jobs available. So since Labour's been in power, there are over 300,000 fewer jobs. In March alone, we saw a drop of 100,000 fewer jobs. And what happens, as you were talking about there, is when there are fewer jobs, the people who lose out most are younger people, or those without experience already. And what Labour has done is not only put up the taxes on jobs, like putting up national insurance on jobs, increasing the minimum wage above the rate of inflation, particularly for younger people, but also they've increased the red tape on jobs through the Employment Rights Act, making it a bigger risk to employ somebody. So you put all of those things together. Actually, let's add in the fact they've made it incredibly hard for hospitality as a sector to make a decent amount of margin. So hospitality has been really squeezing the number of people they employ. And you've lost hundreds of thousands of entry-level jobs. As you say, exactly the sort of things that could be the first job as they were for you. One of my first jobs as a teenager was a waitress in a local pub. I learned a lot doing it. I found it really hard. I wasn't the greatest waitress, for sure. But it's all part of really good experience of getting to know what it's like working and getting some money of your own in your pocket and realising how worthwhile that feels. That's such an important thing for young people's independence. And one of the arguments I'm having with the government at the moment is their approach to all of this is to keep on taxing businesses, keep on putting on more regulation, but do ever more schemes of government-funded placements and work experience, paradoxically spending that money that they've been taxing for the businesses. But young people just tell me they just want to be able to get a job. Yes, of course, work experience is a good thing, and I support more work experience. But what's really going on here is a shortage of jobs and opportunities for the generation we're talking about.
Now, there will be some families, unfortunately, where generations and generations have been out of work, and the young person isn't even bothering to look for a job. What do we do about those families?
It's a good question. And one of the things that I do as part of my work is I go around the country and visit organisations working with exactly those kind of multi-generational worklessness. I've visited organisations in Manchester, Newcastle, Birmingham, for instance, and actually one down the road from me in Kent in Sittingbourne, which are really kind of working with the community to unpick the barriers and why work isn't normal. I had one story when I was up in Newcastle of a young guy who's in his early 20s, and he was the first member of his family for years to work. And he was really struggling to keep going to work because his morning alarm was going off at 7 in the morning, and the rest of his household, none of whom were working, were complaining that his alarm was waking them up. So it can be hard if you're the first one for years in your family to work. And that's why in those situations, yes, people do need a lot of support. You also need the other side of this for benefits to be not so generous that it's not worth working. And that is part of the challenge. And it's one of the things that the government is not prepared to do enough about, which is actually get the welfare spending under control so that it makes logical sense for those who can manage to get a job to be in work and to be better off in work than on benefits.
People, including the Labour Party, might say that that welfare bill started spiralling under the last government as a result of the COVID pandemic. We haven't been able to get spending down to where it was before COVID. A lot of that happened under the Conservative Party's watch. Just very briefly, what would you say to that?
Well, yes, I recognise that particularly the increase in benefits going to people for mental health, anxiety, ADHD, neurodiversity, that did start going up coming out of the pandemic. We had a bunch of plans to turn that around, which Labour turned up in government and cancelled, and they have not been able to do anything about it. We have said we will stop particularly sickness benefits for those kind of milder conditions because actually you would be better off in work rather than on benefits.
Right. Well, Helen Whately, Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
It'll be a tough sort of intermediary. If they do decide, if any government decides to really do a crackdown, there'll be a really tough period of time where people have to adjust.
Yeah, well, the Department for Work and Pensions has issued the following response. They say universal credit is available both in and out of work, so a claimant currently out of work who has been on universal credit for several years has not necessarily been out of work their entire life.
We inherited a broken welfare system with the number of young people locked out of opportunity, work and education rising by 250,000 before summer 2024.
Now, in other news, the jury has been sworn in to hear the trial of former DUP leader Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, who is accused of a series of alleged historical sexual offences.
Let's speak to our Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie, who joins us now from the Crown Court. Doogie, tell us.
Yes, well, afternoon, Tom and Emily, and what a case this has been. 790 days since the arrest of Sir Geoffrey Donaldson on these allegations. It has been back and forward to court many times, but really it was about setting the parameters of the case itself. Now, Eleanor Donaldson, Lady Eleanor Donaldson, was due to stand in court with him, but that has now been put to a trial of the facts. She has been medically unfit to stand trial, which means that she will not be cross-examined in court, and the chances of her actually getting a custodial sentence are very, very slim. That leaves Sir Geoffrey Donaldson in court by himself. He arrived here at about 9:15 this morning, and we were no sooner in court than we were all sent back out over legal arguments. It has now only resumed in the last 15 to 20 minutes, and Sir Geoffrey took to the dock to hear the 18 charges led against him of serious sexual assault, and one of them including an alleged rape. These are all historical accusations from 1985 to 2008. It is expected that this case will go on for up to a month, and this afternoon the prosecution will start to lay out their case, but the court will come up at 4 o'clock.
BT, thank you very much indeed.
Well, to come on the show.
We're expecting a little video.
With Moonbase, Artemis astronauts will stay longer, explore farther, and conduct the kinds of science that advances exploration itself.
Yes, it's the next moon mission, this time to stay. A moon base announced by NASA yesterday as America races China to put humans back on the moon.
But before that, let's take a look at the holiday sun.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The temperatures may start to fall across the UK over the coming days, but it remains hot across central and western parts of Europe. Here, a heat wave continues. Sunny spells across the Canary Islands, temperatures approaching 30 Celsius, the mid-30s for parts of Spain and Portugal, cooler around the coast. That will lead to the risk of some thunderstorms on Thursday across parts of Italy, perhaps Greece as well, and temperatures here above average. And it remains on the hot and sunny side as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Retracing old steps. Paul Terry fought here in the Netherlands during World War II when he was just a teenager. Now, aged 100, he's returned to pay his respects to those he served alongside and to remember those who didn't make it back home.
I am one of the lucky ones, and it's an honour to come back and to be able to salute these brave men that fought and gave their lives. It gives me great pleasure and honour to be back amongst them, really does.
There are 1,625 British World War II soldiers buried here. Many of them died while fighting in Operation Market Garden, a crucial fight for the Bridge of Arnhem, just a few miles away from here, seen as a key route into Germany and crucial for defeating the Nazis.
Large parts of Holland greeted the Allied troops as the armies swept on.
The British World War II veterans are brought here by the taxi charity for military veterans. They've driven them here from England in black cabs.
It's important for remembrance and to learn the stories of the people, of the veterans that were there. It's a generation you're never going to see again, the people we owe so much to. So for me, just to bring them here is just a small way of saying thank you.
At the Airborne Division's own cemetery, Holland and Britain joined in a more personal tribute, visiting the resting places so long tended with loving care.
Remembrance events at the Arnhem War Graves have taken place for the last 81 years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 to 3. Earlier, we were reporting on the trial of Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, which, of course, is starting today. It's important to note that Sir Geoffrey himself denies any wrongdoing.
But to finish the show, NASA has revealed plans to build a permanent base on the moon as part of a historic push to allow humans to live on the lunar surface full-time by 2032.
Yes, the US-based space agency is competing with China, who are planning to return humans to the moon by 2030. So let's discuss this with science lecturer and broadcaster Andy Lound. Andy, this is an incredibly exciting project from NASA, where there could be robotic moon landings as soon as this year.
Yes, they're trying to push it as far forward as they can, really, because it's a very, very ambitious programme to get all this up and running. And I think what we're seeing with Isaacman, something quite spectacular, is he puts a proverbial space boot up backside to get them all moving, and it's very good. But I think the president wants was to make sure that America gets people on the moon before China. So we're going to start seeing phase one, which is going to be the experiment and learn, as they call it, sending autonomous vehicles to the moon to start studying the moon, using what they're calling it the moonfall hoppers, 4 or 5 spacecraft which will survey an entire area of over 1,000 square miles of the lunar surface to work out what the best places is to go, and start looking at dropping scientific payloads on the surface of the moon, followed by, of course, the early habitation in phase 2 between 2029 and 2032, when they start rolling out actual activities on the moon using humans. And then from 2032 and beyond, they should have the permanent base there, which is quite a staggering thing. I mean, bearing in mind that some of the vehicles are not fully ready yet, it's going to be quite a way to do it. But having said that, look what we did in the 1960s to put a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth by the end of '69. That was quite an achievement using that technology. So in theory, there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. And bear in mind, they're going to put $20 billion into this, which is what, 1/5 of HS2?
Oh, that's a very good point. So what's the long-term plan here, that we could actually have humans living on the moon?
Yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of it, because the thing that really needs to be done is the fact that we went to the moon with Apollo, grabbed rocks and samples and brought them back. We need the scientists to stay on the moon to do the research we need. Research, all forms of science is to be done on the moon. Prospecting to look what minerals are available on the moon that we can actually utilise on Earth, rare earth metals, things like that. Possibly helium-3 in the soil, which in the regolith, which we could use for nuclear fusion reactors. There's a technology development that would be used, because you have to have green tech to survive on the moon. You can't have waste materials everywhere because it's dangerous. That technology could filter straight back onto Earth. You got to keep humans alive on the moon. So that means technology that's used to keep humans alive could be the end, filter back down again, back here on Earth. So there's a great payback with this, which is really useful.
And it's just exciting. Our destiny is amongst the stars, and this could be the first step. Andy Lound, thank you very much indeed for talking us through this. I think it is, of course. Like, we started in some tiny corner of Africa and we expanded across the world. Why stop at the world?
Well, there you go. We'll leave that to you to ponder at home. Don't go anywhere, because it is Martin Daubney up next, and he'll be with you from 3 till 6 p.m, so do enjoy.
Absolutely. He's going to join you after our very latest weather forecast, and I warn you, it is slightly hot outside.
We might include the moon weather soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. The heatwave continues today across the southwest in particular. It will be a somewhat cooler day across the east, because we have got more easterly winds moving in. So that's going to bring in more cloud, as well as some cooler air from the North Sea to many eastern areas. Across the west, though, another warm and sunny day. It's going to be hotter than it has been lately across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The highest temperatures are expected to be across the southwest into the low 30s here, but this could allow some thunderstorms to break out later on this afternoon. But across the east, where we do see these easterly winds, temperatures just in the high teens, low 20s, so a fresher day. It is going to be warmer again tomorrow in these areas, however. Then into this evening, it remains dry for much of the UK, particularly across northern areas. Clear skies for much of northern and western Scotland. This cloud still lingering across eastern and central areas. A clear end to the day, though, for Northern Ireland. It's going to be a warm night tonight for parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. These risk of thunderstorms continues to push further north into this evening. Not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm, but if you do get caught in one, it brings a risk of lightning as well as some large hail, so it's something to keep an eye on through the rest of today. So a bit more cloud around through tonight. It will be slightly cooler for parts of England and Wales than it has been, but still very much above average temperatures in the high teens, possibly just into 20 degrees across the far south coast. So a warm start to the day. A bit more cloud across the southwest. You can see some mist and murk here across parts of Cornwall, southwest Wales as well. That should linger through much of the day. Whereas further north and east, it's going to be a warmer, a hotter and sunnier day once again. So although the sunshine will be a little bit hazy, temperatures climbing back into the 30s across the southeast, so the warmth returns tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From West